love you, fool. I love you. Come on, I hit the road out of nowhere. Had to jump in my car. Be a rider in a love game. Following the stars. Don't need a book of wisdom. I get no money talk at all. She has a train going downtown. She's got a club on the moon. And she's telling all her secrets in a wonderful balloon. She's the heart of the fun fair. She got me whistling a private tune.
Who doesn't love a song on Monday morning with a little bit of whistling in it? That would be Roxette. The song is called Joyride. And when I ask a question, who doesn't love a song with a little whistling in it on a Monday morning? Perhaps it inspires you to answer the question by saying, me, I love a song, or maybe you don't love a song with whistling in it. But you know that the minute we begin our show every day, our phone lines are open to you. We begin a new week together here on the program. 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. That song by Roxette went number one on this day back in 1991, so 35 years ago. On May the 11th, 1991, Joyride was a number one hit for Roxette, their fourth number one single. And they said the song was inspired by an interview with Paul McCartney, who had said that writing songs with John Lennon had been like a joyride. So the McCartney words in an interview inspiring Roxette for the song Joyride. I don't know about you, but the joyride that I am currently enjoying is the one provided us by the Kitchener Rangers. Don't look now, but after last night's big win up here in Barrie, where I am working from today, the Kitchener Rangers now have a 3-0 series lead in the OHL final. And that means there is just one more step for the Kitchener Rangers to take in order to win their first OHL championship in 18 years. Nothing is finished yet. There is still work to be done, but my goodness gracious, do things ever look good for our Kitchener Rangers right now? And of course, this being the morning after the night before, when the Rangers play, we do one of two things on the show. We either play a little JP on 570 because Jack Pridham scores a lot of goals for the Kitchener Rangers, or we do a little something that I like to call Eddie Five-Setti because Dylan Edwards, nickname Eddie, has also been scoring in bunches for the Kitchener Rangers. And wouldn't you know, it was Eddie again last night who started this season with the Erie Otters, came over in a trade, and Dylan Edwards gives us the chance to do a little Eddie Five-Setti again this morning.
Edwards gets around his man, finds Sherratt. Sherratt over the line to O'Reilly. Back across. They score! Dylan Edwards does it again! And the Rangers have the lead with 72 seconds left on the clock.
And that would be plenty, right? Just a minute and 12 seconds to go. The Kitchener Rangers led that game in Barrie last night, 1-0. They scored late in the first. There's no scoring in the second. They go to the third, and about midway through the third, Barrie ties the game, so it's 1-1. But 46 seconds after that, Carson Campbell scores for the Kitchener Rangers. So the Rangers are back up 2-1. Everything's good, right? No, because 36 seconds after that, Barrie scores again. And we've got a 2-2 game. All of a sudden, this flurry of goals midway through the third, and it's 2-2 until Dylan Edwards scores that goal with a minute 12 left. Rangers are up 3-2. I may have tickled Josh Piercy. I'm not sure what I did to him, but I got pretty excited. I touched his person in the broadcast booth last night because I thought this is it. The Rangers are going up 3-0 in this series. But then with 12 seconds remaining, Barrie Colts defenseman Keishon Aitchison scored to tie the game again. We had to go to overtime. So there we are at the Sadlin Arena in Barrie, headed to OT. It's a Sunday night. It's a Mother's Day Sunday night. We're thinking about work in the morning, and they play a full OT without doing anything. No goals scored in period number 4. So we had to go to period number 5. The last time the Rangers went to double overtime in a playoff game, it didn't go so well. That was back in 2018 versus the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the Western Conference Final. And it was the Greyhounds who won that game. It was a game 7, no less, eliminating the Rangers from the playoffs. But this time things went a little different. Thanks again to our buddy, Eddie Five Sezzy.
Rangers turn in the other direction. Sherratt over the line. Slides off his stick, but comes back in deep. Edwards! They jam! It's loose! They score! They score! The game winner in the 5th period! And the Rangers are 1 win away!
Oh my goodness. Yes, we are. The longest game, overtime game in Kitchener Rangers playoff history that I can remember. I stand to be corrected if your memory is better than mine, but you got to love the parallels. The last time the Kitchener Rangers won an OHL championship in 2008, on their way there, they played a second round series versus the Sarnia Sting. Some guy named Steven Stamkos was playing for the Sarnia Sting at the time. And Stamkos scored 2 goals in the 3rd period of a game to bring the Sting back to a 2-2 tie with the Rangers. The game would go to triple overtime before Mike Duco scored for the Rangers. Way back in 2008, the Rangers would sweep that series with Sarnia and go on to their 4th OHL championship that year. Does the double OT magic from Dylan Edwards do it again? I don't know yet, but I do know that the Kitchener Rangers are in a very good position as we get set for game number 4 tomorrow night. That's for tomorrow night. This morning and into the early part of the afternoon, we are here together on the program to engage in some conversation about the issues of the day and maybe share a little bit of that excitement with the Kitchener Rangers win last night. Let's go to the phones right now. We've got Shannon with us. Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning. Excuse me. My husband and I listened to you last night. It was very, very, very exciting. But I do have a silly question, Mike. So in between, like once they're going into overtime for sure, they must fuel up. Like what, with just energy drinks? Or what gets them their energy back, their hydration and all that?
Yeah, Shannon, it's a great question. And they've got a terrific guy helping them out with that. Their director of sports science and strength and conditioning coach, Brandon Murley. But these guys, they eat berries, they drink pickle juice, they do have some energy. They even got some pizza in there before the double overtime. If anybody needed a quick hit of energy that way, they get on the stationary bikes and they ride those bikes to keep their legs from getting too tired, just that motion. And Brandon Murley's got this down to a science and helps those guys stay ready.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, good luck. We'll listen to you tomorrow night.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Great to hear from you this morning. It's an exciting thing to be a part of. And listen, I could have used something. I was ready to go out to the concessions myself last night at the 4th intermission because I was getting pretty peckish up in that broadcast booth as well. Let's go next to Jason, who's with us early this morning. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Mikey. I want to say thank you for the broadcast last night. I had about 2.5-hour drive home last night, so I wasn't able to be in front of the TV watching those other guys call the game. But I'm driving home last night from Windsor there, and I was like, we're in the car. We got to turn on the Ranger game. And, some of the passengers thought they, would get fancy with their apps. And I said, no, we have to listen to Mike Farwell. He makes the call, and he calls it right. So we listened to you on the way home last night, so we appreciate that. I did make it home to watch the overtime period, which was nice. But we kept you on in the background. So thank you for those efforts, especially having to go to double overtime last night.
It is absolutely a labor of love, Jason. It's very kind of you, but we love doing it. It is our pleasure, and we really appreciate you tuning into the game.
Can you do me a favor? Can you tell Moose when you guys leave the hotel tomorrow morning to make sure the bus is filled up, and we got to get to BC after tomorrow night's game?
Okay, we'll make sure we stop and put an extra tank of gas in there, just in case.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Jason. Good to hear from you this morning. Some optimism there, and I can understand why. The Kitchener Rangers up 3-0. If they win this series, and with it, the J. Ross Robertson Cup for the OHL Championship, the Kitchener Rangers will punch their ticket to Kelowna, where the Memorial Cup is being played beginning on May the 22nd. Again, still a little bit of work to do, but the Rangers are in very good position. We'll go next to Kevin on the show, who is with us early this Monday morning. Good morning, Kevin.
Hi, good morning, Mike. Congratulations to everybody. What a great game. Well, here is my question. By the way, I'm happy that you still have your voice today, that you can talk after doing such a great job broadcasting it. Where people are watching it, I cannot watch the game. I go to Rogers 20, there is no game. Where can I watch it on TV?
Yeah, it's one of the really unfortunate parts, Kevin. And I used to do the work with Rogers TV for the Rangers games way back a long time ago. And when you get to this stage of the season, I mean, it's good for the league because a national network comes in and gives the league more exposure, but they displace all those volunteers and those regional broadcasters who have been with the team all year long. So it's a little bit disappointing. You don't get the local game. You have to find it on TSN. And I don't know exactly where. They keep bouncing around from what I've heard from one channel to another. But you'll find it on one of the TSN channels is where it's being broadcast.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll do that tomorrow night. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Go Rangers, go.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to hear from you. And remember, of course, you can always hear it right here on your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey. We have every single game and every minute of it, from pregame for 30 minutes before the puck drops to get you ready for the game, and then right through the action, even if it goes into double overtime like it did last night. But how about that Dylan Edwards? 2 goals, 2 assists, and the Rangers the 4-3 double overtime win. All right, let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Monday morning, the 11th of May.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love you.
And number 1 on your Farwell Show 5 today, the federal Liberals are still leading over the opposition Conservatives, but a new poll shows approval for Prime Minister Carney is slipping. The newest weekly tracker from Liaison Strategies finds the Liberals hold 44% of support from decided and leaning voters, while the Conservatives have 33% support. Under new leader Avi Lewis, the federal NDP have 10% support. A little more than half of decided and leaning voters also say they approve of the job Mark Carney is doing as Prime Minister. That's a 2% drop from last week. Number 2, a French woman and an American have tested positive for the hantavirus since disembarking and flying away from a cruise ship hit by a deadly outbreak. Countries around the world are scrambling to repatriate the 130 passengers from the MV Hondias and quarantine or isolate them. 4 Canadian passengers were all asymptomatic when flown to British Columbia's capital yesterday. They will be quarantined and monitored in Victoria for 2 more weeks. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Charges are expected to be laid after a serious crash outside of St. Clements over the weekend that saw 5 people seriously hurt. Police say 2 vehicles crashed near Moser Young and Hessenstrasse late Saturday afternoon with a hydro pole significantly damaged. 5 people were in one vehicle, all of them seriously injured, including 2 children. The driver of the other vehicle was sent to hospital as well, but with non-life-threatening injuries. Number 4, the Kitchener Panthers opened their first season as a professional baseball team. with a loss to Toronto yesterday. Trent Lawson had a home run for the Panthers in the 8-6 setback in Toronto yesterday afternoon. The Panthers will play a school day exhibition game this Wednesday at Jack Couch Park before hitting the road for Hamilton and their second regular season road game on Friday. The Panthers play their home opener at Jack Couch Park on Sunday afternoon versus Chatham. And number 5 on your Farwell So 5 this morning, preparations are well underway for the 60th edition of the New Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale. Organizers say they'll be sticking with what works, offering the traditional quilts, pies, and T-balls. I love me a good T-ball. The annual event raises about $300,000 every year. This year's New Hamburg Mennonite Relief Sale is happening on May the 29th and 30th. That's a Friday and a Saturday at the New Hamburg Fairgrounds. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Monday morning.
You go to the box, you feel shame.
We will take a quick break. We're coming back with your morning wake-up call here on the program. Either you can make it or I will. The morning wake-up call on your Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is the morning after the night before a big win for our Kitchener Rangers. Now 1 win away from the first OHL championship for our local hockey club in 18 years. And how fitting would it be if we just think about it one step further? The Cambridge Redhawks. I'm sorry, I'm still a little bit old school with the Winterhawks. The Redhawks just won the Sutherland Cup, the GOHL championship, and one of the players on that Redhawks team, Alex Forrest, who happens to be a draft pick of the Kitchener Rangers, has been chumming around with us here on this road trip during this series because his season is done having won the Sutherland Cup championship. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice for the region to have the Redhawks win the Sutherland Cup and the Kitchener Rangers win the J. Ross Robertson Cup? One more game to go. I promise to try to not get too far ahead of myself, but these are pretty exciting times. Okay, let's go to the phones here this morning on your morning wake-up call. Our buddy Preston Paul is with us. Farwell's Force, member number 45. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Oh, buddy, I'm doing so well, thank you.
Were you even able to sleep last night? That's all I want to know.
You know what? It's so funny. I was just texting during that commercial break with my beloved, and I said that very thing. It was really difficult to sleep last night after that. I was still buzzing by the time we got back to the hotel.
Yeah, I listened to the game outside last night, and the sun went down, and the game went on to an overtime, and it got colder and darker. I said, I ain't moving my ass from here. I'm waiting until this game is over. So that was just a great game. But I saw something in the tree for the first time this morning, Mike. I saw a wild turkey. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
Yeah, first time. I've been living in this place for over 10 years. And I heard this squawk, and I looked up, and this thing was a monster. It's like, wow. So I was able to get a picture of it, too. But first time I ever saw a wild turkey in the city. So, but you have yourself a great day. Can't wait for tomorrow night, Mike.
All right, Paul, great to hear from you today. The only wild turkey on this show is the guy that's talking right now. That's all we got for wild turkeys. I don't know that I've seen them in the city, though, either, at least not like Paul describes, right in his backyard there in Preston. It was a little difficult to come down after that big win last night. I cannot tell a lie, even though it was a little while before we left the rink. A lot of Rangers fans made the trip. There were even some Go Rangers Go chants in the crowd at the Sadlin Arena last night. Lots of fun and great to see the support for these young men who are competing to try to bring that prize back to the city of Kitchener again for the first time since 2008. If you were listening to All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, as I am sure that you were, to get your information for the day, you would have heard Josh Piercy. So he's here with me in Barrie last night. He's on the show this morning reporting about the road safety improvements that the city of Waterloo is looking at. And that's about a week or two, maybe 2 weeks removed from a similar story out of the city of Kitchener, as Kitchener continues on its quest for Vision Zero. Vision Zero is this idea or program that encourages us to reduce collisions that cause serious injury or deaths on our roads to zero. Obviously, it is a noble pursuit and one that we can definitely get behind. In Kitchener, we had 2 traffic deaths on our roads last year. The 3 years prior, there were 0 fatalities. So we did achieve that Vision Zero, at least for the 3-year stretch, if you will. But 2 traffic deaths on our roads last year. And look, I want to say again, of course, this is something we can get behind, right? The idea that we have 0 collisions on our roads that cause serious injury or death. But I want to just ask if we're being realistic about this when we consider the number of people who are, people, AKA human beings, and human beings are prone to mistakes. And again, I recognize that part of Vision Zero is to build infrastructure to create roads that minimize the impact of any mistakes that we make. And the city of Kitchener will tell you that when they look at those injuries that are caused by collisions, 80% of those involved aggressive, distracted, or impaired driving behavior. So absolutely, these are things that we have to combat. Here's where the pursuit of Vision Zero begins to break down for me. And I recognize that this will not be universally popular by any stretch, but I'm a bottom line numbers guy. I'm a give me the evidence and back it up guy. I'm a guy that wants to use common sense to arrive at a logical conclusion. So sure, if there is speeding and aggressive driving and impaired driving causing these collisions that claimed 2 lives last year, where did those collisions occur? And what can we do in those areas to ensure that those collisions are not happening again or the impact of them is minimized? And then I'm looking at the work that the city of Kitchener has on the books, for example. One of the roads that's going to get a complete reconstruction is Wilfrid Avenue. Have you been on Wilfrid Avenue? It's right there near Weber in Montgomery. It's this itty-bitty, teeny-weeny little street kind of in the Franklin, Ottawa. I'm trying to remember that. It might be a part of the Stanley Park neighborhood. Either way, it's an itty-bitty, teeny-weeny street. Another one on the list is Murner Avenue. I grew up around there. One of my best friends lived on Murner Avenue. I spent decades of my childhood playing on Murner Avenue, riding my bike on Murner Avenue. Do you know what not ever has happened on Murner Avenue in Kitchener? A collision that caused serious injury or death. Never one time. So if the goal is to eliminate all collisions causing serious injury or death, why aren't we targeting the roads where these collisions causing serious injury or death are actually happening? What we do instead on little roads like Wilfrid and little roads like Murner is spend more money than we need to spend to create the illusion of safety. Again, the pursuit of Vision Zero is a noble pursuit. And yes, we want to eliminate these collisions on our roads. But why, in light of the data, do we go to these itty-bitty, teeny-weeny roads and say we need to spend extra money here to do what? To prevent the collisions that have never happened? I don't understand that. And truly, I've said this before, I think Vision Zero was somebody's idea to make a whole lot of work in the infrastructure industry. Municipalities have bought in. They're spending more money than I personally think they need to do on roads that don't need those kinds of infrastructure enhancements. That's my 2 cents on it. You can let me know via email, mike@570news.com, how you feel, because we got to move on to an update from the 570 News Center. And then let's talk about the local hospital share levy. What does it mean? How much is it going to cost you? That's next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. no shortage of things going on in our region right now, says Captain Obvious sitting over here. I mean, we've got the ongoing water issue and the various challenges that presents not only to folks living in areas who are relying on their own dug wells, for example, and experiencing the impacts of water shortages from time to time, the freeze on development. I mean, all kinds of implications around that big story. We've got the mess that is Conestoga College right now. That's a story that's just emerging, and we're going to get into it more in about 30 minutes time, just after the 10 o'clock news this morning, and talk about that. We're in a municipal election year, some are saying, and I might be amongst them, that we're experiencing a bit of a leadership vacuum right now. Lots of big things on our plates. And oh yeah, by the way, did you remember that we're also building a new hospital out in the David Johnston Research and Tech Park at the University of Waterloo? Yeah, that's a thing. And frankly, how much will the current water crisis impact the future of that hospital? We're looking at about a 10-year horizon for the construction and opening of that hospital, given the way government projects work, maybe 15 years. Nonetheless, that is still on the books. This is incredibly important infrastructure for our community. So lest we forget about it, I will give kudos to our regional council for thinking more about it directly and specifically at a meeting last week. It was Regional Councillor Natasha Salonen, who's of course also the mayor of Wilmot Township, that brought forward a motion asking that council consider what is known as a special hospital local share levy. And Councillor Salonen joins the show this morning. So, Natasha, let's just start there. What is this levy that you're proposing?
Yeah, so I'm proposing a levy because in the province of Ontario right now, the Ministry of Health funds 90% of construction costs and 100% of eligible planning and design costs of new hospitals. And as we know, the region is in the middle of getting the new hospital underway. So there's going to be 10% that's called the local share. And in early discussions, we already know that the REN is going to be looking to the municipalities for some of that money raised. So my thing is, knowing that there is going to be a large amount of money asked of our tax base, let's start getting the local share together. It will be a levy on the tax base, and a big reason for it is, one, saving and putting it into an investment fund so that that's less money out of our pockets directly and getting some of the interest to go towards what we will be paying. And two is to start weighing it against some of the other large-scale, big-dollar projects that we have in the region, because at the end of the day, our taxpayers only have so much money. And for me, I think it's really important to get this big ask at least started to get it on the table.
Yeah, I call him my inner accountant, and he really gets behind ideas like this, kind of being proactive with our saving. You mentioned that large number that will be required from the municipality when it comes to the construction and operation of this new hospital. Do we know what that number is yet?
To be very clear, no, we do not yet have that number. However, if we're looking at trends across the province, City of Mississauga is a great example because they built a comparable sized hospital to what we're talking about when we talk about beds and the type of acute care services. And the City of Mississauga is going to be raising $390 million for their portion of the local share. So we can be expecting large digits in the multi-millions. I would not be surprised. And again, on the wanting to get started before we have that number, at least start saving now, so that when the time comes, it's not a huge spike to the tax base that's unsustainable.
The 0.5% that you are proposing through this motion, what does that amount to for the average taxpayer in the region?
So I don't have the breakdown of the dollar value for the average taxpayer across the region. However, what council did decide to do was refer this motion back to staff so that they need to bring it into the base budget for 2027. So I'm not necessarily looking at this as a net new cost. I'm really looking at this as where can we find 0.5% of our tax budget and redistribute? Because, again, our taxpayers only have so much money, and we know we're going through an affordability issue across the entire country right now. So I'm really trying to get it on the books and weigh it against all of the other priorities that we have. And maybe some of the nice-to-haves that we currently are doing in the region might have to look at not doing in order to allow for this to happen.
Yeah, that ties into something else that you said earlier that caught my attention when you talked about what is going to be a large number amongst so many other large numbers, competing priorities within that massive regional budget. Does anything come to mind for you initially, Natasha, when it comes to the sorts of choices that you might, as a councillor, be willing to make?
Absolutely. A lot that we've already seen council have to make and that were heavily debated during budget. And I don't think that they're necessarily going away. But I mean, of course, we have LRT Phase 2. We're talking in the $1 billion range here for that. Again, we're looking for federal funding, which is fantastic. But if we don't get the federal funding or we don't get all of it, what does that look like? We also, we're talking about WRPS's beautiful new communication center, which, to be very clear, I totally understand why they're putting it forward on the table. But again, looking at everything that we have, I don't know, in my perspective, if that's a top priority at this time to that scope. We also have the water issue. We are learning every day more infrastructure that needs to be upkept and understanding what that means. Again, now that tends to be user-based, so those in through water fees would be covering. However, again, these are our taxpayers, and they only have one wallet. So again, looking at the costs there. And of course, we know that across the entire province and the region, as well as lower tiers here, are not immune to it, is we have a huge infrastructure deficit gap. So we have more infrastructure that needs to be replaced than money saved to replace it in the appropriate time span. So there are huge dollars on the table in question that we're going to have to start making decisions about, and already have been. And I just really want the hospital portion to also be considered in those decisions, opposed to just, well, we're building the hospital, we'll get to it when we get there. I want to start working it in now, knowing that we're talking about huge dollar amounts. And at the end of the day, these are our taxpayers that only have one pocketbook.
Your colleague on council, Doug Craig, who is one of two councillors representing Cambridge, while supportive of this levy that you're proposing, also wants to make sure that, hey, don't forget Cambridge Memorial Hospital, which is also in our region. How do we ensure, Natasha, that we are remaining balanced in this regard?
Yeah, so council's already, before even my motion was brought to budget and then deferred to earlier this week, council did decide that anything that we do in terms of local share, we're also including the Cambridge hospital needs. So my motion does include that essentially this investment account accumulated through the special levy would include Wren Hospital project as well as the agreed upon Cambridge Hospital projects. Keeping in mind that I'm from Wilmot, we don't have a hospital here. We go into Kitchener, soon to be Waterloo with the new hospital, and also Cambridge. And there's different specialized services that we have people all across the region using. So that's something that regional councils already decided to include Cambridge's hospital network in this.
Wondering if you have any insight you can share with us on this project, because we're still talking in rather vague terms insofar as a large number will be required on the part of the municipality, et cetera. Do you know any more than we generally in the public right now about the sorts of dollar figures that are associated with this project overall?
Again, this direct project, no. However, looking at trends across the province, it's not unheard of. Like I said, City of Mississauga, $390 million. City of Hamilton was asked to do $264 million, and City of Ottawa has yet to commit to $150 million. Now, they're unique. They're choosing to go a different approach, but and not looking at actually raising from the local levy. However, the province has been pretty clear as well that it's required of the general public, of the local share to be provided by the public. So we're talking multi-hundreds of millions of dollars. Again, looking at some of the estimates is where I'm going off of, but that's general public information. I'm not actually in the room when they're currently discussing with the REN what it'll look like.
Just before I let you go today, we are speaking in your capacity as Regional Councillor Natasha Salonen, but Mayor Salonen in Wilmot has put her name forward again for a second term as Mayor of Wilmot Township. What made you decide to throw your hat into the ring for a second term?
Yeah, well, I've really enjoyed getting to serve my community, and there are some things that we need to finish up, in my opinion. There's been a lot of change in the last 4 years. Nobody's unaware of some of the issues that's been going on in Wilmot, and really now looking at stabilizing the organization. We've gotten some really great changes in staffing, as well as promoting people that should be in higher leadership positions, and of course our finances finally getting under wraps. So now looking for this next term to be stability with someone who's already had the role, understands how it works, and be able to create consistency for Wilmot and help us grow is really what I'm hoping to bring in the next term, should I be elected.
You talk about enjoying that time serving the public in this capacity. I've often looked at municipal council in particular, Natasha, as a largely thankless position. So you haven't been beaten up too much yet, eh?
Perhaps I'm a glutton for punishment, but genuinely, I love my community, and being born and raised here, it's really a privilege to get to give back to my community by helping us through current issues and helping set us up for a better future.
Appreciate your time on the show today, as always. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
That is Natasha Salonen, Regional Councillor and Mayor of Wilmot Township, as you hear at the end of the conversation. Yes, Mayor Salonen has put her name forward in hopes of a second term to lead that council in Wilmot Township. Current Councillor Chris Wilkinson and former Green MP candidate in Wilmot, Steph Gertz, also putting their names forward for Mayor of Wilmot Township. But that's secondary to the conversation that Regional Councillor Natasha Salonen sparks for us this morning, and that is around this idea of a local share hospital levy. Let's start putting the money away now so that when we are asked for our local share, and we will be, there is money in the bank already, so to speak, and the impact on taxpayers here in the region is lessened. So it's not all coming at once, right? As I said in the course of that conversation, I've got this guy that I refer to as my inner accountant. He can get behind things like this. Start tucking away the money now. Pay yourself first. Save this money so that when the bill comes due, you've got that savings already in place, or those savings already in place. I hope that we do move forward with this idea. 0.5% on the overall tax levy doesn't sound like a lot, but when we are dealing with tax increases in this region at the regional level, at or very near to double digits over the past 2 to 3 years, you can understand how much spending is already in those budgets. So where are we going to be willing to make those sacrifices so that this 0.5% doesn't go on to the 9.5 that was there 2 years ago, the 8 point, whatever, these numbers, right? If we're already 5, 6, 9, 10%, we don't want to go 5.5, 6.5, 10.5%. We want to find savings within that existing budget so that the 0.5 doesn't have further impact. Some difficult choices will have to be made. And the other thing to bear in mind here, and I appreciated Councillor Salonen's analysis of nearby municipalities when they were asked for similar local shares. We are absolutely into the hundreds of millions of dollars here. There will be a capital fundraising campaign. There will be a local municipality's share of this hospital. I think we best get ready for the idea of upwards of $500 million coming out of this local hospital share levy when the bill comes due. Your thoughts on the new super hospital being built in Waterloo? Do you have any concerns with the water crisis where it's at right now? Do you have any concerns about our ability to afford it? Remember, having healthcare so close to home is a massive win for the community. So if you were to ask me, I would say absolutely, yes, please. This is something I want to invest in because it just makes this community a little more future-proof for a guy that's getting older like I am. If you put that hospital right in my own backyard, this is a win for us as a community, full stop. Definitely something I can get my head around putting some tax dollars, local tax dollars, into. Your thoughts always welcome on the show. We'll take a break and come back with your phone calls. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I'm from Wilmot. We don't have a hospital here. We go into Kitchener, soon to be Waterloo with the new hospital, and also Cambridge. And there's different specialized services that we have people all across the region using. So that's something that regional council's already decided to include Cambridge's hospital network in this.
That is Regional Councillor Natasha Salonen. Also, of course, the Mayor of Wilmot Township makes reference in that clip you just heard to Cambridge Memorial Hospital because when Councillor Salonen last week brought forward to Regional Council the idea of a local hospital share levy, her colleague on council, Doug Craig, who represents Cambridge on Regional Council, made it clear that, yes, this is a good idea, but we best not forget the hospital that resides south of the 401, Cambridge Memorial Hospital, and the various projects, upgrades, etc., that happen there. As always, Doug is keeping the city of Cambridge at the forefront of his mind, and I completely understand that. It sounds as though we can walk and chew gum at the same time in this regard. But the reason that I wanted to make sure we had this conversation on the show is because of what I alluded to as we began the conversation. There is a lot going on, right? Not just here locally, but beyond, that distracts our attention from time to time. But even here locally, you know, a lot of the oxygen is sucked up with big issues like the current water crisis, like the upcoming municipal election, like LRT phase 2, et cetera. This hospital is a massive undertaking. And yes, healthcare funding comes from the province, but that's just for the bricks and the mortar. Everything else that goes into that hospital is going to have to come out of this local share hospital levy and whatever funds we are able to raise in this community through a capital campaign that will be announced in the months ahead, I am sure. But it's going to give you a little bit of sticker shock here. Again, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, probably in the neighborhood of $500 million or beyond. So I just wanted to make sure we at least had some visibility on this. We begin a bit of the conversation today just to remind you, hey, don't forget that this thing is happening and it's a pretty big thing. And oh yeah, it's going to cost us some money. It is my sincere hope that, I'm glad that Regional Council unanimously endorsed this idea of starting to tuck the money away now at a 0.5% per year on the regional tax levy. We'll see what the numbers look like when staff comes back with the report. But this is prudent financial planning. What I really want to see, if we reelect some of these same, many of these same, all of these same members of Regional Council, if we put new people on Regional Council in that election coming up in October, I'm going to be paying very close attention to the choices that are made to ensure that we put money away in this hospital levy. What are we going to sacrifice? What decisions will be dropped completely, projects deferred, etc.? Because I'm not sure we've got anything more important than saving properly for our share of this hospital that's coming to our community. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then it broke on Friday afternoon, and oh my goodness, did it break big time. In fact, one might say at this point, Conestoga College itself is broken. What the heck happened? We'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, as you no doubt heard on Friday afternoon, Conestoga College, let's say Conestoga College's empire began to crumble. The province appointing an auditor or a supervisor to manage the school's operations after what were described as egregious financial decisions were uncovered by way of an audit. You have likely heard about many of those by now, including a luxury trip internationally to Italy, during which executives at Conestoga College flew first class. They had luxury transportation and accommodations. They had a booze-filled dinner, a $1,300 dinner bill, for which half of the bill before tax was alcohol. And this wasn't a wining and dining of a prospective anything for the school. This was just executives at the school enjoying a night out at the school's expense, which by extension is at our expense, since colleges and universities are publicly funded institutions. Look, we know what happened at Conestoga College when it came to the aggressive pursuit of international students, right? And those students were pursued because, of course, the tuition that they paid is much higher than what domestic students pay. Anywhere from 3 to 10 times the tuition paid by a domestic student is the tuition paid by an international student. Now, the college and its defenders will tell you that the federal government was signing off on these student visas. The provincial government had stagnated funding for colleges and universities, and those post-secondary institutions had to get creative, for lack of a better word, with their efforts to raise the necessary funds to remain sustainable. And a lot of post-secondary institutions did begin that same pursuit of international students and the subsequent increased tuition and thus revenue that came with them. But no school in this country pursued international students to the level that Conestoga College did. In 2022 or 23, I'm forgetting the year specifically. I think it was 2022. Either way, Conestoga College had more international student permits approved than any other school in all of Canada. And in fact, that number that Conestoga had in 2022 or 2023 was almost double what the universities of British Columbia and Toronto, two huge institutions, had combined. So just let that sink in. University of Toronto, University of British Columbia, you add their international student permits together and you get just a little bit more than Conestoga College had all on its own. We, of course, learned firsthand of the impacts this was all having on our community, right? There was a strain on local infrastructure, including housing, where a regional councillor saw some students carrying, it was either a mattress or a sofa down the street, stopped, asked some questions to learn a little bit more. And these young people were living in incredible conditions, apartments that were way too small with way too many people in them. We had strains on our transit, etc. And quite frankly, we've seen some cutbacks when it comes to GRT routes and funding, because that explosion of international students perhaps artificially inflated the number of people using transit. We start to forecast for future use based on those same numbers. And all of a sudden, when the cap on student permits was put in place, those numbers diminished dramatically. But there's no question that things got way out of hand. And as much as you want to point a finger of blame at the feds for issuing the permits, the province for stagnating funding, I don't think we can overlook the fact that executives at Conestoga College and its board of governors knew full well what was going on. And quite frankly, they just didn't care enough about it. My hunch in that regard is because there was lots of money rolling in. Remember, the school was running a surplus of $250 million at one point through all of this. And when the money's rolling in, it gets pretty attractive to see it keep rolling in. What is it they say about greed and the 7 deadly sins? Your thoughts on what has transpired. We've been trying to connect with Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University in Ottawa. He was scheduled to join us this morning to share his take. We've been unable to connect, but always happy to hear yours, because I think we take this as personally as we do because it happened right here in our community. And the Toronto Star has even more information on this today when it talks about the egregious financial decisions that were made by that board of governors and former executives at Conestoga College. You can share your thoughts at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. According to the Toronto Star's reporting today, Conestoga College was handing out pay raises with no justification. It awarded contracts to higher bidders without explanation. It allowed an executive to take part in recruiting their daughter into a management position. And it had such poor oversight of procurements and purchase orders that one for $11,000 was recorded at $126 billion and not a soul noticed. Let's also not forget what the provincial auditors learned and is now encouraging the college to recalculate the retirement package for now former President John Tibbetts. That retirement package estimated at around $4 million, or 83 times the former president's annual monthly salary. And provincial law caps those severances at 24 months. So how can you circumvent provincial law, 24 months, and award a severance of 83 months? The Waterloo Region Record also had some reporting on this over the weekend with Board of Governors members or former board members who spoke on condition of anonymity. And it was explained that the retirement package, the severance package, was brought to the board. The board was asked to approve it, and yet they had no idea what was in it. They were told that the details of that retirement package were confidential because they were personnel matters at the school. It is my assertion in all of this that quite a good number of people got very wealthy off of this empire that was built at Conestoga College. And we all end up suffering as a result. You think of the salary that was being paid to John Tibbetts, the former president, of more than $600,000. It was a 55% increase over his last couple of years. Somebody had to approve that. And who approves salary increases of that nature unless they were directly connected to the vastly expanding real estate portfolio and you name it for Conestoga College at the time? And then the severance. Mr. Tibbetts walks away a very wealthy man. And I did some looking back over the weekend when it comes to the Sunshine List. And you know that list whereby the province makes it public which people on the public payroll are earning more than $100,000 per year. Well, back in 2016, there were about 300 employees at Conestoga College earning more than $100,000 per year. About a year ago, there were more than 900 employees at Conestoga College earning more than $100,000 per year. So I don't think it was just former President Tibbetts who was getting pretty wealthy off of everything that was going on at Conestoga College. And of course, along with the empire beginning to crumble, a lot of those employees have been let go. Thousands of layoffs at the school, but some pretty nice golden parachutes for people that were making in excess of $100,000 at the time and got their severance packages on the way out the door. Let's go to the phones, hear from you on this. Ian is with us this morning. Good morning, Ian.
Hey, good morning, Mike. I'm one of those lovely layoffs, professors who have not worked for the last year. And I called out this crap about 3 years ago because, as you know, I teach audio production and I'm teaching to an animation class. And it's interesting that my animation class is like 98, 99% students from India. And I'm thinking, well, what do you mean? Like, there's no Canadian students that are interested in animation? Like, this seems not right. But what really was frustrating was that I would say, there was a high percentage of them. They weren't there for animation or anything else. They were there to get a permanent residency card. And honestly, every time I see Tibbetts and his raises and everything else, and it's just like, I think that everything should be clawed back because they literally destroyed this community. Fairview Park Road, how many times do we see of businesses putting up signs saying, sorry, no more resumes? And that impacted how many of the domestic students and potential students, who are like 16, 17, 18 years old trying to get a job so they can go to the college, but they can't even get for the businesses that aspect. And to give you an idea, like, again, when I'm teaching audio production, I had to beg for them to put in a proper system, like a stereo speaker system, so I was no longer using mono speakers in a ceiling to teach audio production, using software that was dated, that the industry doesn't really use. Like, they cut back everything that the professors would need, but man, did they ever give themselves some nice trips and everything else. And, it's sad because Conestoga had a great reputation. And I think it'll be a very long time before they really ever, if they recover from this. I don't think they're going to have much of a good reputation for a long time. And the other quick thing, you know what? I'm 56. I was working there for 10 years, contributing to the pension, everything else. And now, here's a year that has passed where I didn't get income from them. I didn't contribute to the pension. And for all the other professors, like, this is another reason why I think they need to claw back all that money given to these idiots higher up, the greedy buggers, so that we can get the professors back in, work towards their pensions and help them get back on their feet, because times are tough. And these guys, my God, talking about being sows at the golden trough. Thanks very much, Mike.
All right, Ian, appreciate the call. I can certainly understand the frustration from someone who was inside of that. And the point on a class being filled 97% by international students, I heard something similar via email on Friday when I first spoke of this and talked about what appears to be just nothing but outright greed on the part of the executive at the school. And that is the domestic students who got squeezed out. I heard from a parent of whose son is or was attending Conestoga College, and the struggle that they had getting into classes, getting quality, what they felt as though was a quality education, their co-op being honored and recognized, etc. Domestic students got squeezed in all of this too, and I don't think it should be forgotten. Let's go next to George, who's with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Mike. How you keeping?
I'm keeping pretty well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very good. Very happy about the Rangers win last night.
That makes two of us, my friend.
I want to go ahead and talk to you about the shameful act of John Tibbetts and the board that's surrounding him, who are making all this extra money. Mike, no one is talking about this. Could there possibly be any criminal charges that could be laid on this group of people? I'll hang up and listen.
All right, George, I appreciate the call. I don't know that this would cross the line into criminality. I don't know that greed is a crime in and of itself, at least not, when you get into fraud and things like that. But these things were all signed off by boards of governors, et cetera. I do know from what I learned in the Stars reporting today that there will be an effort, or may be an effort, to try to recoup some of this money that was spent or essentially wasted in all of this. But I don't know that there is any level here of criminality that would be pursued. Really tough spot for all of us to be in. And I think to Ian's point earlier, trying to repair this school's reputation is going to be a very long and bumpy road ahead indeed. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, hey, news of a different kind from, well, at least our post-secondary district in Waterloo, as we give you the daily reminder on this show that not everyone is a jackwagon. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, after a conversation about Conestoga College and all of the problems there, you might just start to think that, everyone around us, even in this town, is a jackwagon. But we like to remind you on a daily basis that's not the case. So this is the perfect time for that reminder. It's 10:23.
Not everyone's a jackwagon. Not every heart is cold. Not every promise made to you is gonna turn to gold and fold. Some people mean it when they say they care. Some folks will show up, actually be there. So don't close the door on every soul you meet. Not everyone's a jackwagon on this street.
I admit to stealing this directly from a buddy's social media page, but when I read it, I thought, you know what? It needs to be shared even more widely than Facebook will share it. It is the story that takes us to at least the district of other post-secondary institutions in our community, that being Waterloo. And my buddy does some Uber driving in his spare time and had a young lady book a call in the Laurier area to go to Baden. Now, when my buddy got to the pickup, two girls came to the car. One was extremely intoxicated and asleep about 3 minutes into the drive. The other girl, though, did not get into the Uber. In fact, she hadn't even been out that night. She was just walking in the Laurier area, saw this extremely intoxicated woman and thought, you know what? This girl is going to have some problems. She's intoxicated. She's cold. She's falling asleep. So what I'm going to do out of the goodness of my heart is book her an Uber. And so this good Samaritan girl talks to our buddy, the Uber driver, makes sure the address is correct, make sure she knows where she's going, and continued to text along the way to make sure that the girl was dropped off safely. And my buddy said, if my daughters were so lucky to have somebody look out for them that way, if they found themselves in a similar situation, how happy he would be about it. So this Good Samaritan finds another young woman in not a great state out on the roads by herself in the cold on Saturday night and thought, I'm going to make sure this girl gets home in an Uber, calls that Uber, tips the driver, keeps in contact to make sure the drop-off happened. And apparently her name is Jaden. So if you know a Jaden who may go to Laurier or the University of Waterloo, my buddy's post on social media says you should be proud of her and maybe even give her a pat on the back for being the good Samaritan that stepped forward for somebody in need, a complete stranger. And everything worked out just fine in the end. Another reminder that not everyone is a jackwagon. If you know someone who is not and you want to share their story with me, by all means, drop me an email to mike@570news.com. We're going to get you an update from the 570 News Center. And then in the next half hour, the new business that has really got people buzzing in this region and getting ready for another Grand River Ride for Dad. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. As I gaze out yonder window here from the remote studios in Barrie, a beautiful sunny day, a little on the crisp side though. And if you've known me for 5 minutes or so, you know that I'm one of those guys in the motorcycling community that you might refer to as a fair weather rider. Even after putting heated grips on the bike a few years ago, it's still a lot. I like it when it's nice and warm and sunny. So we've got the sunny, we've got the nice. We're missing the warm enough part. But I'm assured that the better weather is on the way, and even us fair weather riders are going to be out enjoying the roads in no time at all. I've seen plenty of bikes out because it's that time of year when those of us who do ride get anxious to get those bikes back out. And I talk about motorcycles because we're less than a month away. It'll be on Saturday, June the 6th, that the annual Ride for Dad here in the region begins to roar again. Joined this morning by the co-chair of the Grand River Ride for Dad, Colin Hawk, to talk more about it. Colin, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. Exciting game last night.
Oh my gosh, was it ever an exciting game last night? And, you know, it's funny. We've been talking about that a lot, Colin. It's a nice time of year in weather like this to be going to the hockey rink because, you know, the games are pretty special when you're going to the rink in mid-May. Have you been out on your bike yet?
Yeah, I've been out a few times this year. Yeah, the weather's been great so far. So, yeah, looking forward to a good riding season this year.
Good for you. You're not the fair weather rider that I am. You wait for the dry and sunny conditions, but you don't need it to be like 20 degrees like me, eh?
Yeah, no.
Let's talk about the Ride for Dad. This is an annual event that I know so many of us are familiar with now, but what's going to happen on June the 6th, Colin?
So June 6th, yeah, that's right. We're doing our Ride for Dad, Ride for Prostate Cancer Awareness. Prostate cancer, it affects... it's the number one leading diagnosed cancer for Canadian men and the third leading death of Canadian men. So Ride for Dad, it started we're starting our 26th year for Ride for Dad, and we're starting our 23rd year for the Grand River Ride. And over that time, we have brought in about $2.8 million, and we've had about 13,000 riders in those 23 years. And it all goes, all the money we raise goes locally to Water Regional Health Network Cancer Center.
That's a fantastic number, almost $3 million, 13,000 riders. And one of the things I love about this event, Colin, is it puts two things together here with the motorcycling, which is dominated by men. I know a lot of women ride and love it too, and I'm so glad that they do, but it tends to be something that guys will default to. And if you can get them all together and then talk to them and raise some awareness about prostate cancer, we're doing a pretty good thing here, which is the whole point, I guess.
It is. It's, one of the things we want to do is get men talking about, about their health, whether it be something related to cancer, like prostate cancer or mental health. It's important that men discuss these things and seek the help that they need.
How can folks get involved with this 23rd annual Grand River Ride for Dad?
So you can, if you go to Grand River or Google just Grand River Ride for Dad, go to the website and you can register as a rider. You can register to donate, and you can even register to be a volunteer if you want. And it's $40 to register. And if you bring in $100 or more in pledges, you ride for free. You can get your $40 back. And this year's grand prize, which is grand prize for all the rides across Canada, is a $20,000 cash prize. And there's 5 $1,000 gift cards for Princess Auto this year as well. And that's for every $100 in pledges that you bring in.
You know, something like this wouldn't happen without the support of the sponsors that you get, I am sure, along with Princess Auto. I mean, who else comes on board to help make sure that, riders are rewarded for their efforts and you guys have a smooth day out there?
Yeah, we have lots of sponsors, local sponsors in the area as well. Moose Winooski's really helps us out. Steeden Evans, Apex Cycle, a lot of local places really help us out with getting us set up in the ride ready. And without their support And without the support of our volunteers and our executive, this wouldn't be a successful ride. And we like to think we have a good one.
Yeah, well, absolutely, we do. I've had the chance to participate on a couple of occasions in the past. It's always so well organized. You get some support from police as well for that parade that starts things off. Is it going to go that way again, starting at Sports World and a little a parade from there before the ride begins?
Yep, we start Sports World. Kickstands go up at 9:30 sharp, and from there, the police will lead us through Kitchener into Cambridge and to Apex Harley Davidson, where we'll end the parade, and that's where the ride starts with the poker run. So from there, everyone's on their own, just follows the route. We like to think we mark the route pretty well. And it's about 150, 180 kilometers this year. And we end at the Waterloo Regional Police Association.
Right. That's always a good place for it to end. And then there's music, a barbecue, all kinds of things going on there too, right?
Yep. Music, barbecue, and then we have some more prizes that we're going to give out for the top pledge earner and the top poker hands in our run. Where
will the poker ride take us this year?
This year, so like I say, we start at Moosinooski's. We go to Apex. That'll be the first poker stop. Then from there, we go to Royal Distributing, another one of our big sponsors. And then we've changed the ride up a little bit this year. Instead of going to Steeton Evans this year, from Royal Distributing, we're going to head down to Perth County Motor, like we have in the past. And then we're going to stop at Team Vincent Motorsport in Ayr. So they're a new sponsor that's jumped on with us as well. And then from there, off to Waterloo Regional Police Association to end the ride and barbecue and prizes.
You're hitting on a number of my faves there. I've gotten to know the folks at Perth County Moto in the last couple of years. A great success story there in the Stratford area. And then Dave and Terry Vincent are just terrific folks there at Vincent Motorsport in Ayr. So it's nice to, there's something else about the motorcycling community or the power sports community that really rallies together too, isn't there?
It is. And this year we're actually going to have Dave Hatch on from TSN. He does that motorcycle cycling show there. So he's going to be following us around and joining us on the ride. And then you'll see our ride on one of his episodes in the near future.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We can showcase some of the beautiful areas around here that he'll be seeing when he's out there on the ride with us.
Oh, exactly. And he's looking forward to it.
This goes Saturday, June the 6th, and it is rain or shine, correct?
Yes, rain or shine.
Okay. And again, if we just Google Grand River Ride for Dad, we can get ourselves registered. There's still time to register and keep collecting those donations?
Yeah, if you register before June 6th, it's $40. If you register the day of, it's $50.
Okay.
And then we have a pre-registration at the Waterloo Legion this year. We're giving away 200 grab bags for the first 200 people that come in and do the registration and get your book and pass and all that for the day.
That pre-registration at the Waterloo Legion, that's on Marsland?
Yes, branch 530.
And right. And when does the pre-registration happen? On like Friday?
That's on the 5th from 11 to 6 p.m.
Right. Okay. I remember how it used to go that way too. Okay. So on Friday the 5th, you can pre-register at the Waterloo Legion. You can register on site on the 6th, but having been through this before, it's best if you pre-register. Get online, register ahead of time. Just Google Grand River Ride for Dad. Makes things go so much more smoothly on the morning of, and then you can just get your bike to the Sports World area at Moose Winooski's and set up and talk and have a coffee and look at everybody's machines. That's the fun part.
Yep. And first 300 people that get there in the morning, there's breakfast put on by Moose Winooski's as well.
Fantastic stuff. Colin, love the work that you all do. I'm hoping we can get up over that $3 million mark with the funds raised this year, and we'll see how we're doing at the end of it all.
Great. Yep, we are too. Last year we had just around $88,000 that we're donating to the Ren Cancer Center.
Fantastic. I love how the money stays local as well. Keep up the great work, and thanks so much for joining the show today.
Thanks a lot, Mike, and we'll talk to you soon.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Colin Hawk is the co-chair of the Grand River Ride for Dad. It comes up again on Saturday, June the 6th, so under a month. And you don't have to be a fair weather rider like me. It's nice enough already for some people. We've had some good days. I just haven't had a chance to take advantage. But if you take advantage of no other charity rides, make sure you add this one to your list. It's lots of fun, lots of great folks out there, and you're raising money for prostate cancer awareness and research, mental health awareness. All of the funds raised stay local as they approach $3 million in funds raised. Just Google Grand River Ride for Dad, get registered online, or you can pre-register at the Waterloo Legion on Marsland Drive in Waterloo the day before, or on the day of, Saturday, June the 6th. The best part of that day, though, is gathering with your fellow motorcycle enthusiasts in the morning and then getting in that parade that takes you from Moose Winooski's down into Cambridge to Apex Cycle. The entire community gets behind it. The route is often lined with folks giving waves, and it's a great chance to show off your machine a little bit and do something for a worthy cause. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. What the heck is a Slurps Terp? Oh, you're going to find out all about it. And if it's got something to do with honey, I am here for it. I'm just glad somebody else does that work to get the honey into my hands. Paul Harper joins the show. He has started Slurps Terps Apiary and joins us to talk more about the initiative. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thank you. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Enjoying the sunshine, but it's a little crisp this morning.
It is indeed, but I also am enjoying the sunshine. I'll take it. When it's bright, it makes it that much nicer, especially on a Monday, right?
Oh, that's exactly it. Now, just definitely use a little bit of a bump in the temps for the bees and all the lovely flowers that they love to pollinate.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. I mean, the bee business, how and why does one get involved in this?
Well, originally I started in kitchens, probably right around 20 years ago. Through that, I did my chef apprenticeship out west, ended up back in the region, worked at Wildcraft Bar and Grill many, many years ago, was part of the Cambridge Mill a handful of years ago, or actually almost just over a decade and a bit ago when they first opened. And from there, they had like a farm program with that restaurant group. So I learned about the caretake of animals and livestock and just had that introduction to it. And that kind of opened my eyes to the farming side of food production, which I slowly over the years kind of integrated into and towards, and helping a friend that had a small project farm just out in Baden there. And that led to me developing about a half acre of garden that I started to work for, just to provide for myself, friends, family, and kind of jumped into bees accidentally. My niece, she was working for a company in Toronto, caring for bees on commercial sites. And that's how I kind of learned about the whole commercial property integration of bees and that. But she had a free spare hive, I guess, one that split out, and she didn't have a space for it. So she called me up and offered me the hive, and I jumped on it. And that was about 4 years ago. And now we're looking at expanding to about 25, 30 hives this year, with the potential to get up to about 90 to 100 over the next couple.
What does it take, Paul, to get the honey extracted from all those hives?
It's usually just a lot of sweat equity. You're lifting heavy boxes of the honey, battling with the bees, of course, because they don't want you to take their resources. And it's just basically time and sweat. It's not too much work. The bees are pretty good at what they do, and you just time it with your nectar flows. You swoop into the apiary. We have a few special products that we can kind of slip in between the hive layers, and they're called a one-way bee escape. So the bees cannot enter the honey boxes anymore, but they can leave them. So as they do their job and move down in the hive, it kind of clears out the honey boxes, makes it so you have less bees in them when you go to remove them for harvest. And we basically use a small leaf blower type device and just kind of blow the remaining bees out of the frames, stack the boxes onto the trailer, and get them back to the honey house as quick as you can.
You talk about the sweat equity. How many bee stings does one suffer doing this?
It's actually very minimal. Last year, I think I only got maybe 1 or 2 stings, and I primarily work without a full full suit on. I prefer to wear just the head veil at the majority of the time and work with bare hands and open arms to kind of experience and feel the bees. They respond very much to your vibration and your energy. So if you are nervous and anxious and moving fast and doing things without, moving deliberately, they sense that and they will kind of let you know to get out of their space. Where if you you basically mingle with them, see how they're feeling, react to them the same way, feel the vibe out. And if they don't want you in the house, you back up. But if they're okay with it, you proceed nice and calmly. And they're very accepting of it. They're very easy, very gentle to work with. It's very calming, despite the chaos that you would think it is.
I would certainly think it might be chaotic, but that's a great description of what it can be like. And knowing absolutely nothing about this, Paul, producing honey locally, do we have the conditions for that? Do you just need the hives to get the work done? Does anything else have to be in place in terms of weather patterns, et cetera?
Oh, it's very, very much dependent on the weather. If we have too much rain, the amount of rain can wash the nectar out of the flowers, causing lower yields for the bees. On the contrary to that, if we have too much dry, you get what we call a dearth, and that's where all the nectar is just sucked up and there's nothing left. The plants aren't producing anything for the bees to take. So you need that nice in-between, not too hot and dry all the time, but we need enough rain so that everything's kind of consistent for them.
When it comes to the locally produced honey, how do you connect what you're doing at the apiary to our community more broadly?
So what I'm offering is it's kind of a unique model. Not too many beekeeping operations are doing this. We have a few examples within the city, but they're not up to their maximum potential, I feel. We have a few of the sites where, like at the Kitchener Public Library, where you can go by, you see the beehive, you kind of see it there, but there's nothing else than that. They have the odd interaction day where you can come out and meet the keepers who tend for it. But what I want to offer is, in my apiary sites, a subscription service similar to the community-supported agriculture, where you would buy a box of vegetables from a farm, or you pay for the subscription service and they deliver you a box of vegetables every other week, every month kind of thing. It's that CSA program style with the farms. But I want to do something like that with the honey for businesses and local residents. So for the businesses, I want to partner up and pair with cafes, places like restaurants, cafes, diners, places that offer and serve honey already and or utilize it in their menus. And then they could sponsor a hive in one of our sites and or host one on their site if it is suitable. And basically we provide a custom branded bottled honey that they can now serve and sell on their site with their branding forward, and just a little partnership with our apiary. They get to sell the story of the honey, share the story, experience the nectar. We provide all the social media updates and the hive, updates throughout the season as well. They get to follow along depending on their tiers. They can come out and meet the bees in person. They can bring their staff out for interaction and tours with the bees, and all sorts of stuff. So we offer that more connection to where the honey is coming from.
I love it. What a great story. And I can't help but ask, because I'm super curious, slurps, terps, Paul, what's that all about?
So originally it was nectar, slurps, and sun terps, but because of the length of the name and everything, I condensed it down. It's my kind of play on it was the bees are slurping the nectar out of the flowers and bringing it back, and botanical terpenes are where you get the flavor profile specifically in all the honeys. So the variance
Absolutely
of the terpenes allows for a variance in flavors across the different one. Every flower kind of produces their own array of terpenes, and there's hundreds of chemical compounds within that family.
It is a fascinating story, and I really appreciate you sharing it with us on the show this morning, Paul. Thanks so much for being here.
No, appreciate you having me.
That is Paul Harper, the founder of Slurps Terps Apiary. That's right, Slurps Terps. And now you know. An update is on the way from the 570 News Center, and then it's Monday. And Monday mornings at 11, we take a look at This Week in Music History. That is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In your mind's ear, not your mind's eye, but your mind's ear, that we were just playing a little bit of We Got the Beat by the Go-Go's as we usher in another week with our good friend and musicologist, Brian Allison. This is This Week in Music History. And don't forget, for the full list of weekly stories, please follow Brian's Facebook page. All you have to do is search This Week in Music History on Facebook. It'll pop up for you. And this full list of stories will be there for you, including the information about the Go-Go's that we will get to as we embark on our weekly journey with a trip down a musical memory lane. Brian Allison, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. How's the weather in Barrie today?
You know what? It's beautiful, a little on the crisp side, but it sounds like it's very similar to what you've got back home.
Very similar, yeah. It's cool today for sure, but a nice sunny day.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it the minute the show is done. Not that I'm wishing away time or looking forward to it, but I will be outside enjoying the sunny day because I need to get some steps in today. Can't just sit around, Not good for me.
Sounds good.
All right, let's start with the furthest note back this week in music history. But for me, one of the all-time greatest albums. Is it rock and roll? Is it not? Maybe it's 1966 version of rock and roll, but no question, this for me was one of the best albums ever. May 16th, 1966, Brian.
The release of Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Yes, I agree with you, Mike. It's an outstanding record. And it really had a huge cultural impact on popular music. So it was written, produced, and arranged almost primarily by Brian Wilson. And it was revolutionary for a number of reasons. First, the broad use of instrumentation. So for one of the first times, rock and roll music wasn't just guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. He was including things like synthesizers and a theremin, bike bells, even soda cans were used in the studio to create sounds. And then, of course, you have Brian Wilson's ambitious production techniques, which found him turning the studio into an instrument of itself. So this just became a huge album. Hits like Wouldn't It Be Nice and God Only Knows. It was transformative within the music industry and within popular culture, influencing countless producers, engineers, songwriters, and musicians because of the fact that people realized, hey, the studio is an instrument in itself. We don't have to just go in, sit down, plug in our instruments, and play. There's all kinds of things that we can do here in terms of multi-tracking and creating interesting sounds that had never been heard before. And it worked. This is an album that was so influential that the Beatles heard it and went, we got to get us some of that. And they went and recorded Sgt. Pepper, which also became a groundbreaking record. So incredible anniversary of the release of that album.
It really is. And to know that they had the Beatles so inspired, if not, maybe a little bit envious, right? They're like, wait a minute, if Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys are doing that, we need to do something special too.
Well, and Brian Wilson was competing with the Beatles because he wanted to be as popular as they were at the time. So, this was his gesture towards that. It was also, it's some interesting trivia around it. It was also very much inspired by Brian Wilson's fear of losing his hearing because he had ongoing issues with his hearing. He was already largely deaf in one ear, and he was fearful that he was going to lose hearing in his other ear and become completely deaf. And that anxiety really pushed him to become obsessive about studio sound, about details in the music. He wanted to create something sonically perfect while he could still hear. And a lot of people think he achieved that. It was really an incredible album and still is to this day.
Okay, from one huge album in 1966 and really a groundbreaking album in Pet Sounds, let's fast forward a couple of decades. And the guy who brought us Bat Out of Hell, also one of the biggest albums of all time. But this week, Brian, in 1981, you're telling me that Meatloaf was fresh out of money?
He was broke. Yeah, May 12th, 81, he had to file for bankruptcy, claiming debts of over $1 million. I remember when this story broke, and even at the time as a young person thinking, how could this guy possibly be broke? I mean, this is like the biggest album. When he declared bankruptcy, Bat Out of Hell was actually still charting in certain countries, having been released in 1978. 3 years later, it's still charting, and he's broke to the point where he has $1 million in debt. So it was pretty incredible. I mean, Meatloaf was interviewed about it many times. He said his quote was, "I made almost nothing. That's how it was back in the 70s. Record company said that Bat Out of Hell never made a profit," which isn't true. He had signed a contract that saw the lion's share of the album's profit going to his label, going to his management, and others, including songwriter Jim Steinman, who he had to split the profits with, of course. And then he had toured endlessly to promote the album, but they didn't make a lot of money on the tour because of the high production cost. He had so many musicians and performers that were part of the show that by the time, all the debts were paid, they weren't making a lot of money for him. So he ended up having to sell some of the rights to his songs that he co-wrote with Jim Steinman just to cover his debts for Bat Out of Hell. But he came around full circle. By the mid 80s, he had started to make a little bit more money off of the album again because it was still selling and still sells to this day. And then he did Bat Out of Hell 2, of course, Back into Hell, and that made him a little bit of money. So I think he ended up landing on his feet. But yeah, hard to believe with all those albums sold, something like 43 million copies worldwide, that he would have any debt at all.
Well, and isn't it amazing how times change? Because you talk about the tour not really making much money. And I get it because, of course, as you mentioned, all of those musicians, all of the production in there. But today, because music is what it is, and really there's not much in album sales anymore. It's all about getting on tour and selling concert tickets. And that's the bread and butter for artists these days.
For sure. And merchandise and all of that kind of stuff. That's where they get their money from these days. So, you ask yourself, let's imagine that Bat Out of Hell came out today, would it have been as successful as it was then in terms of, album sales? Definitely not. But, could it have made somebody like Meatloaf, a millionaire? It wouldn't be as easy to do as it was in the 70s. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, let's stay in the decade of the 80s. And would it be fair to say, Brian, that this week in 1985, the Go-Go's went?
Yeah, all done temporarily anyways. Yeah, this was a surprising story, too, in 85, because the Go-Go's were still kind of at the peak of their popularity. They were still a very popular band, still selling a decent amount of records and selling tours. And they, were broken by internal conflict and management issues and just, decided one day, what, enough of this. We've had it. We're done. So, yeah, the Go-Go's were considered the most successful female rock band ever. They were the first female rock act to have their debut album hit number one. And that was a pretty important goal in 1981 when Beauty and the Beat came out. But, they had come from the underground. The Go-Go's were initially a punk band and made a very deliberate move towards pop music and a more pop-oriented sound. And not everybody in the band was happy about that. It did create tensions. And then when you've got an all-girl band, certain members are getting more attention from the press than others, and that creates, strife within the band. So they just pulled the plug and said, we're done. But they came full circle. By the 90s, they were doing a successful reunion tour, released an album in 2001, were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021. All ended well for the Go-Go's. They did very well for themselves.
But they were pretty hot at the time they decided to call things quits.
Yeah, and the funny part was, when the Go-Go's hit number one with Beauty and the Beast, they were touring North America as the opening act for the Police. And all of a sudden, the opening act is, got the number one album. So that was a little bit awkward. But both bands, coincidentally, sort of quit at the top of their game. The Police, Sting pulled the plug on the Police when they were arguably at the top of their game in popularity and record sales. And the Go-Go's were still charting, were still doing very well at the time that they decided to pull the plug. So, yeah, just internal conflict. It happens within bands, and, it's sad sometimes.
Musicologist Brian Allison joins us every Monday morning just after the 11 a.m. news for a look back at this week in music history. Don't forget to follow Brian's Facebook page. Just search This Week in Music History on Facebook. You'll get a full list of weekly stories. We're going to take a quick break, but we're not done with these weekly stories. The bizarre story, and frankly fascinating, of Tower of Power's Rick Stevens still to come. Neil Diamond finally gets a number one, and maybe a little Zeppelin news for you as well as we continue This Week in Music History on the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Monday mornings at 11 a.m., we are joined by musicologist Brian Allison for a look back at This Week in Music History. Don't forget to follow Brian's Facebook page to find the full list of weekly stories. Just go on Facebook, search This Week in Music History, and Brian's page will show up for you. Speaking of pages, I didn't mean to do it this way, but there is a Jimmy page. And Brian, this week, in 1988, was it the reunion we were all waiting for?
Well, for a lot of people, it certainly was. So May 14th, 1988, Led Zeppelin reunion of sorts for the Atlantic Records 40th anniversary party, which was happening at Madison Square Garden in New York. So the three remaining members of Led Zeppelin decided to reunite for the show and bring John Bonham's son, Jason Bonham, on board to drum for them. And this was their second reunion since splitting. The first was that sort of awkward, ill-fated set that happened at Live Aid in 1984. Wasn't very well received. They didn't sound good. They didn't look great. The band members weren't really into it. But they thought, well, let's give it another chance for the sake of Atlantic Records. And it didn't really go that well either. So, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant were noted to be arguing prior to the performance. One of them wanted to play Stairway to Heaven. The other one didn't think that they should do that song. Page later described the appearance as, quote unquote, one big disappointment. And Robert Plant agreed, stating that it was, the gig was foul, were his words. So likely due to these two events, Led Zeppelin would not attempt a full-on reunion tour. And that sort of was it in a nutshell. It wasn't a great show. The members weren't into it. I think when Led Zeppelin pulled the plug after John Bonham's death, maybe that should have remained the end of Led Zeppelin, and many fans would agree.
All right, this week in 2001, I don't know that it didn't kick off in Philadelphia, but it was the tour of Brotherly Love.
Somewhat, yes. So
Yes.
It was definitely dubbed the Tour of Brotherly Love, featuring Oasis, the Black Crowes, and Space Hog. So aptly titled because the bands contain three pairs of brothers, of course, Noel and Liam Gallagher in Oasis, Chris and Rich Robinson from the Black Crowes, and Royston and Anthony Langdon from Space Hog. So yeah, it ended up being a pretty successful tour. My question is, who is your favorite band that contains members who are brothers? And there's a long list. You can look back in history and, just to name a few, you got the Everly Brothers, the Kinks, the Beach Boys, the Bee Gees, Creedence Clearwater Revival, the Allman Brothers, Van Halen, AC/DC, Pantera, Hanson, Kings of Leon, Radiohead, 30 Seconds to Mars, all contain brothers. So which is your favorite one, Mike?
Yeah, that's tough. And you know me and where my musical tastes lie. So I'm really struggling between AC/DC and Van Halen, pardon me. But we just talked about Pet Sounds a moment ago. And gosh, how do you not put the Beach Boys in that mix? And I love me some Kings of Leon as modern rock too. So I think, if you put me on the spot, I would lean just a smidge towards Van Halen in this one.
Yeah, I tend to agree. As a youth of the '80s as well, Van Halen and AC/DC were certainly big. It's also striking the number of contemptuous relationships between these brothers in these bands. The Everly brothers didn't speak for decades. Ray and Dave Davies from the Kinks, they were known to have physical altercations on stage during shows. John and Tom Fogerty of CCR, they sued each other hundreds of times. And of course, you got Liam and Noel Gallagher. Their toss-ups were legendary. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic to have brothers in a rock and roll band.
No question. Okay, let's get to this story about Tower of Power from this week in 2016, Brian, because boy, oh boy, are there layers to this one.
There really is. And every once in a while, in my research and my reading, I come across a story and I think, why don't I know more about this? And why isn't this, in this, I'm like, God, this could be made into a film because it's such an interesting story with, like you said, so many layers. So on May 13th, 2016, you've got California R&B funk band Tower of Power. They came out in the 60s. And in 2016, they did a reunion gig in California in a prison. Now, the significance of that is that their former lead singer, a fellow named Rick Stevens, had served 36 years for a 1976 drug-related triple homicide. Stevens was in his 30s, 4 years out of Tower of Power in 1976, addicted to drugs, and he shot to death 3 men during a 1976 dealing dispute. He was actually sentenced to death row. The jury found and voted for execution. But, of course, in California Supreme Court ruled not long after that the death penalty was unconstitutional and all those death sentences were commuted to life sentences. So he was in prison for 36 years, released in 2012, and reunited with his band and went back to play at prison with Tower of Power. It's just such an interesting story to me. And Stevens spent his post-prison life lecturing about the perils of fame and addiction and how life in the limelight can unravel so quickly. So he made right of the, things that had happened to him in the past, but just such an interesting story, such an amazing biography. And again, love to see this made into a feature film and for more people to know about it.
Yeah, not to get too deep into the weeds here, but you talked about how originally it was going to be a death sentence that was commuted. So, and you say after the fact, he's lecturing on the perils of drugs and whatnot. You could make the argument here, this is a model case for rehabilitation. And if the death penalty had been ordered, we never would have gotten the benefit, if you will, of him speaking about these perils of the lifestyle that he led.
Well, and as well, yeah, that, and then returning to his art and returning to being a performer with his former band, going back to a prison to play for other inmates to show them, you know what, you can rise above this. Your life is not over. There is rehabilitation. So it's an important lesson for everybody. But yeah, just such one of those stories that just is, I've talked to other people and even mentioning Tower of Power, they're kind of like, I don't really know that band very well. So it's one of those stories that should have more light on it.
I agree. I was this many days old when I got all of that background. So there you go. Before we let you go, Brian, I guess it was worth the wait for Neil Diamond this week in 2008. I hope it was worth the wait.
Finally. Yeah, no kidding. May 15th, 2008. Neil Diamond reached the top of the U.S. Billboard album chart for the first time in his career with Home Before Dark, which really surprised me when I read that. I thought, that was his first number one album? He had all those records dating back to the 60s and, never hit number one? Apparently not. So he was 67 years old. This was his 29th studio album. His previous highest chart position was in 73 when the soundtrack to Jonathan Livingston Seagull peaked at number 2. That was one that I would have guessed was number 1, but I guess it never did reach the number 1 spot. It got to number 2. So at 67, Neil Diamond in 2008 became the oldest artist to have a U.S. number 1 album. The record previously held by Bob Dylan in 2006 with Modern Times, which was released when Dylan was 65 years old. So Neil Diamond beat him by 2 years and got a number 1 album to boot. So good for Neil Diamond. Well done.
Good for Neil Diamond, indeed. I was also surprised it took so long, but hopefully worth the wait. Brian, this is always fun. I look forward to it every Monday, but we're going to give you next Monday off, okay? Because it's Victoria Day, so we'll talk in a couple of weeks.
That sounds good. Look forward to talking to you in 2 weeks, Mike.
Thanks, Brian. Bye-bye.
Hey, take good care.
Brian Allison, our good friend and musicologist who joins us for This Week in Music History every Monday morning at 11. Next Monday is the holiday. And speaking of that, this is usually the time of the show where I let you know what this Friday's theme for All Request Friday is going to be, but I wanted an extra long weekend, so I took Friday off. No All Request Friday this week. There's a little heads up for you. Sorry about that, but I just felt like taking an extra long weekend with that holiday next Monday. Don't forget to follow Brian's Facebook page for the full list of weekly stories. Just search This Week in Music History on Facebook. You'll find it. An update from the 570 News Center is on the way. And then another regular feature on this show, Drewe's Views, is coming up with David Drewe on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? Has anybody heard from Crazy Dave? I haven't seen hide nor shaggy head of that boy in 4 years. But you'd know him if you met him. Played harmonica like the cat lost his balls. Yep, Crazy Dave. Had a toothy smile as big as my hand. Always chewed on a toothpick or a long blade of grass, drank from the bottle, rolled the worst cigarettes, was impervious to insect bites. It's one of the best damn tree-planting highballers east of Prince George.
That is our good friend, David Drewe, owner, negotiating change, government relations, stakeholder engagement strategies, and a former Conservative Party staffer. He joins us every Monday morning, 11:30, to share his views on Drewe's Views. David Drewe, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How's Barrie?
You know what? Barrie is not too bad. It's getting a little cloudier, but overall, nice day, little cool. I've got no complaints, though, from where I am. Are you in the home offices in Wellesley right now?
Yes, I'm in the gingerbread room.
What now?
I call it the gingerbread room because it's the original logs, so it's brown with the white plaster between the beams, so it looks like a gingerbread house.
Oh, I like that. Okay, the gingerbread room it is. And things are good in Wellesley right now?
Starting to cloud over. I think it's about as sunny as it's going to be all day right now.
All right. It sounds like we are in under similar skies then as we dive into your weekly take on things, including how you completely are in disagreement with and cannot understand any opposition to a health care levy. What do you mean by that, sir?
I don't want to say I dismiss any opposition to it. But the opposition as expressed was we shouldn't start saving for it because we have no idea how much it's going to cost in the end. And that is the most bass-backwards way to do anything I've ever heard. If you want to buy a house, you start saving for it long before you know how much the house is going to cost because you know you're going to need a substantial wad of cash to do it, regardless of what the final sticker price is. When I was a financial advisor, we had this concept called the pretend mortgage. So you're renting right now when you're spending $750 a month, let's say, on your apartment rental. Well, how much do you want to spend on your mortgage? Well, $1,500. Okay, so start saving an extra $750 a month to make sure you can actually afford it. Like, there is all the reasons to go ahead and start saving for a major expense that we know is coming and we do not want to be skimping on. And not knowing what the final sticker price is just no reason to be delaying.
So you and I feel similarly on the motion brought forward by Regional Councillor Natasha Salonen last week to get moving on this special local hospital healthcare levy so that we can start putting away 0.5% every year. So when the bill comes, it's not going to be, it'll still shock us, I'm sure, but we'll have some money in the bank.
Exactly. And it'll be less of a shock because we'll be going from 0.5 to something as opposed from 0 to something. There's
Could not agree more.
There might be reasons not to do this. But the idea of not knowing how much the hospital we know we are going to build is going to cost in the end, I don't understand how somebody would even express that thought.
Yeah. What if it's more expensive than you think? Well, then good thing you started saving.
And if it's less expensive than you think, and let's be honest, what are the odds it's going to be less expensive than we think? If it's less expensive than we think, well, our rainy day fund goes a bit further and we can increase taxes a bit less. There's no downside to getting ahead of a problem.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And I said it earlier this morning when Natasha was on the show. I have this person I call my inner accountant, and he is very much in support of such a levy and that kind of financial planning. It just makes sense. Why shouldn't we do stuff that makes sense?
And as I wasn't able to catch the entire interview, unfortunately, with Mayor Natasha, but the one part I didn't understand that I heard her explaining was it's not necessarily she's looking for a full increase, but she's looking to identify that amount of money within the budget, whether it's entirely through a tax levy or through savings found in other areas. She just really wants to make sure there's a designated pot of money for this hospital so we're not scrounging and borrowing at the last minute. That makes sense.
Yeah, you absolutely caught the gist of that. Okay, speaking of things I'm trying to catch the gist of, and you seem to be as well. I love this story because apparently one of the biggest problems with going back to the office in our nation's capital and not working remotely is there aren't enough physical spaces for people to work in. What say you, David Drewe?
This is one of those items that I can't understand how the government can get wrong. And this is not partisan. This is management of government. This is something somewhere. But you know how many employees you have. You know how often you're going to want them showing up. Do the math. You know how many desks you need. You know when they're coming in. So how is it that every time they have one of these back-to-work dates, the government ends up having to postpone because they don't have the desks for people to show up at? It just sort of feels like every few weeks or months, there's another deadline being hit where we're reading about the civil servants are supposed to go back to work next week, but they have nowhere to work. And I cannot understand. It's simple budgeting. Can you imagine if this was the school board and all of a sudden it's like return to school day and it's like, hey, we're 8 schools short for our students. Like, how does that planning go so wrong?
Okay, cynical take here, David. Is the planning really that wrong? Are there really that few desks, or do we have a pretty strong and wounded union saying, no, we can't go back because there aren't enough desks? Like, have we counted is what I'm getting at here.
Well, it's not just the union saying there aren't enough desks. So I've been seeing reports about the management saying we have to delay because we do not have enough workstations. Now, don't get me wrong. The union is throwing the baby out with the bathwater, saying we don't have enough desks right now, so let's stop trying to go back to work in person at all. Let's work at home forever because of a temporary problem. I do not buy into that. But questioning the competence of management, I think, is very fair game for the unions right now. Because you are the ones who are saying we have to go back to work, and we are objecting to it. And then at the last minute, after we have made childcare arrangements, after we have made alternative planning for kids, et cetera, you're saying, actually, don't bother because we can't have a desk for you? That's really more than just the unions. And the fact that it keeps happening, that's the part that is just so... If it happened once, it's like, okay, it's a problem, but it doesn't seem like they're learning from their mistakes, and it keeps happening.
Yeah, I find the whole thing very interesting because it seems like such a simple problem to solve. And I mean, we could make the accusations that the civil service has gotten bloated, but it's not as though every one of these hired workers is in the nation's capital. And again, I think part of it's got to be the resistance to going back. But nonetheless, maybe, David, maybe there's an opportunity here for some entrepreneur to go and figure out the desk problem in Ottawa.
it's not like there's a shortage of office space available in Ottawa. I think they shed way too much space during the pandemic, and now they're trying to make do with far too little, and they're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube now. But that's just speculation.
Okay. No, but I can get behind that theory for sure. Okay, another one that you and I seem to be of like mind on, because I thought this guy was almost assured of being our next Liberal leader in Ontario. Not that I'm endorsing one or another, but the tea leaves suggested to me that Nate Erskine Smith was going to be the guy. In fact, he's leaving his federal post in order to run for the provincial party leadership. But then next thing you know, Navdeep Bain's name enters the picture. Lee Fairclough, who used to be the head of St. Mary's Hospital here in Kitchener, has now entered the race. What is going on with Nate Erskine Smith's brand, David?
Well, most recently, he just lost the nomination for the provincial vacancy in the riding next to his federal riding, left by, was it Dolly Begum?
Yeah.
The NDP who left to run for the Liberals federally. So he ran for that nomination. And the woman who ran in the last election was rather offended, basically saying, if you're the candidate of record, you generally don't face a nomination race, which is never anything I have ever heard, Mike, to be fair. Like, I think she pulled that out of her butt. So I'm sitting there totally thinking it's going to be a race between these two people. But then apparently some dude who until about a year ago lived in London and owned some Domino's pizzas there, moves back to the riding and he won the nomination. So Nate Erskine Smith is a wounded duck before he's even officially entered the Liberal leadership race. The big winner here is Navdeep Bains. I wouldn't be surprised if Navdeep Bains was organizing the time the successful nomination candidate just as a way to clip Nate Erskine Smith's wings.
Wounded duck is a good way to put it, but does this suggest to you in any way? I mean, I think Navdeep Bains is a quality candidate for sure. I thought Nate Erskine Smith was a quality candidate for sure. Does this suggest to you in any way that the Ontario Liberal Party isn't coming out of its minivan? Well, it's a little bit out of the minivan status. I think they need 2 minivans now, but regardless, anytime soon?
My interpretation of this would be that if my theory is correct, it's an example that Nate Erskine Smith may be a great candidate to be premier, but, pardon me, he might make a great premier, but he probably does not make a good candidate for premier. He might not be that good at organizing, which is a key skill if you want to eventually win. That's just how I'm looking at it. It's not a sign of the Liberal Party overall because somebody ended up winning and there seems like there was a whole lot of votes cast. It's, healthy riding, it seemed, but Nate Erskine Smith didn't win. And that is probably a reflection on him and his ability to organize, not his ability to be a great leader or potential premier, but can he take the gloves off, get the bums in the seats out to vote? And the problem with being content heavy and thoughtful is you don't motivate the masses like Tax the Rich or Lock Her Up does.
David Drewe joins us every Monday morning at 11:30 to share his views on a segment we appropriately call Drew's Views. David owns Negotiating Change, Government Relations and Stakeholder Engagement Strategies. He's also a former Conservative Party staffer. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, last time I checked, I know I'm here in Barrie, but I got a message from friends who are in Alberta listening to the show today. So Alberta is still there as far as I know. Things are good. And what is our new Governor General challenging us to do? We'll get into that as we continue Drew's Views here this morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Our good friend and former Conservative Party staffer, having worked for Harold Albrecht when he was the MP for Kitchener-Conestoga, David Drewe joins us Monday mornings, 11:30 for something we call Drew's Views. And David is getting good at this radio thing. He keeps it between the lines so we can keep having these weekly conversations. And to that end, we're going to call it Wowberta, right, David? As opposed to something else we could call Alberta right now.
But you've got to admit, my alternative was very creative.
It does. I like the way you worked in the F word. Yes.
Anywho, Alberta is in a very weird place right now. And they have a referendum being brought forward. The signatures have been submitted. Apparently, they have more than enough, the petitioners say, to force the referendum on Alberta separating from Canada. That is the backdrop to this whole thing. What has happened is that a political party in Alberta, not the governing PCs and not, or pardon me, the UPC and not the NDP, one of the minor ones, shared access to the voters list of Alberta with a group called the Century Project, which is pushing for the Alberta separation referendum. That right there is problematic. Second problem occurs when this Century Project starts using this information to enable their organizers to recruit followers and puts next to no controls on access to the entire voters list. First, that this became reported in the timeline would have been by an anonymous source to Jen Gerson of The Line at readtheline.ca. And he had been able to get access to the voters list with a fake email address. So she, rather than write a story about it, she took it to Elections Alberta, who got back to her and said, we don't think it's in our mandate. We find your evidence interesting, but there's not enough there for us to investigate. She never would have come public with this, except what ends up happening is this group has an online webinar on how to organize for the referendum. And among the attendees are a member of the Alberta NDP staff and a member of the UCP staff. The NDP staffer apparently went back and informed the leader that, hey, in this meeting, it seemed like they had access to the voters list and they were sharing Jason Kenney, former premier, former immigration minister, etc., federally, Jason Kenney's private information to all of the attendees of the webinar as the example of how to use the program. Yeah, the UPC staffer didn't cotton on to the fact that this might be a problem. Or apparently that's the allegation. So now you have the entire population of Alberta whose information has been released to the public. You have almost 500, I believe it is, court orders having gone out to people who have the program or who have accessed the information. Like, it was at the point where I could have signed in with my fake address and downloaded the whole thing to a USB drive, and then Lord knows where it goes from there. But there's at least about 500 recalls and freezes being put down on this information. This is pretty darn crazy. And just to put this all in perspective for the listeners, if an election was held today, Danielle Smith would be reelected with an even bigger majority. So this is Alberta. What do you think, Mike?
Well, David, I hate being that guy, and I've only followed this story peripherally, but you nail it, of course, in terms of the story itself and the nuts and bolts of it. I'm thinking about the CRA federally and the inability to protect our data. Now we've got this. Like, I don't want to be that guy and put on my tinfoil hat here, but I'm starting to distrust our public institutions with any of my information ever at this point.
Well, the only thing I can say about this is I do believe there's going to be some accountability in this case.
Yeah, but the
list
ship's
was
already out of the
salted.
port.
There's going to be accountability. Yes, this is illegal, and the list was salted. It can be traced back to exactly who did what when. It's all going to be there. Somebody is going to face charges over this, I believe. And that is so rare for these mistakes like this.
I certainly hope so. I've cut you down to 30 seconds hard. Can you do Governor General Louise Arbour in 30 seconds?
I will try. During welcoming her as the new Governor General, Mark Carney cited her history of holding institutions to account as one of her strengths. And I'm just curious, what does holding institutions to account have to do with being Governor General? So that got my knickers in a twist a little bit, but apparently the Inuit are quite upset as well because the media was just a little bit too fawning in the fact that Lise Arbour is really bilingual as opposed to the previous Governor General who only spoke English and Inuit. So Canadian bilingualism might be a little bit colonial, they are seeing, for their tastes. And I just, I did not think Louise Arbour's appointment was going to raise a specter of colonialism. But here you go, 2026, Mike.
Here you go, 2026. David, appreciate you. Enjoy your day in the gingerbread room and don't eat the gumdrops. They might be stale.
Have a great day, Mike. Go Rangers,
You
go.
too. David Drewe joins us Monday mornings, 11:30 for Drew's Views. I've got to get you to the 570 News Center, and then I've got to open the phone lines real wide so you can have your say on Rant or Rave. That's next. Line up on the phone lines right now. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
It is that time of day. We open up the phone lines to hear from you during the Talkback Hour. Gives you a chance to reflect on the issues of the day or bring forward something to us that you think should be the issue of the day. And on Mondays, we keep with tradition on this radio station. It is your hour to rant because you're upset about something, or rave because you'd like to sing someone's or something's praises. Rant or rave, you do either of those things with one phone call to us. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Let's get things started with Jersey Bill. Good afternoon, Billy.
Oh, good afternoon. Well, happy to see the Rangers have done so well. Hello?
We all are, Billy. We all are.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely, yes. Well, one thing strikes me, and that is that, it's interesting comparing sports to the rest of the world. You got this great leader of the Rangers, Mr. Hokus, who seems to know just the right buttons to push, and of course. There's always it seems that all sports seems to sort of balance. Even on a particular night, a very bad team could beat the best team in the league. But what strikes me, what's happening out in what we hesitate to call the real world, is that now both Russia and the United States are showing themselves to be pitiful giants. They both have the power to blow up the world innumerable times because of the number of weapons they hold. But Russia continues to do the wrong thing in Ukraine, continues to fight a war which probably has no possibility to win conventionally, and they're not able to use the threat of nuclear weapons. That would that would make them the worst pariahs in the world. Same thing with the United States. They've come up against Iran, whose military people are stubborn. I don't like them, but they do have this capacity to fight asymmetrically and stop us. And in both cases, though you'd say that Russia and the U.S. have the greatest militaries in the world, probably they now prove to be militaries that simply can't deal with the task in front of them, because the leadership is following a plan which is so flawed. And if you look historically, great leaders in the past have done the same stupid things, thinking that they could just push their will on the rest of the world, and eventually they get tripped up, because that's just not the way the world works.
Billy, as always, appreciate the call and the perspective, from hockey, junior hockey, and the quest for an OHL championship to the threat of nuclear war. Speaking of leaders, thanks to Phil for giving me the heads up. And we knew this was coming, but it is now official. Last Thursday, the 7th, the provincial government adopted the Better Regional Governance Act, which means the regional chair is now a provincially appointed position and will not appear on our municipal election ballot this October. No nominations for this position may be filed or accepted now locally, and any nominations received prior to the passing of that act are deemed withdrawn. Not that I had seen anybody file their intention to run for regional chair, but the legislation that we expected was adopted officially last Thursday, the Better Regional Governance Act. We will not elect a regional chair in October. One will be appointed to us. It is now official. Let's get back to the phones. Doug is with us on Rant or Rave. Hello, Doug.
Hello, Mike. Oh, this is definitely a rave. I was literally on the edge of the seat of my couch last night. I can't remember. I told you about resilience, and last night the Barrie Colts proved they weren't going to go lightly, and yet the Rangers wouldn't give in, and it was absolutely amazing. I know that you and Josh, I got his name right this time. You and Josh did a wonderful job, as usual, letting us all know what was going on here at home. But I got to ask you where you came up with that lovely little reference to the shot. One of the guys took, not this game, game two, he missed the net. You referred to it as high, wide, and not so handsome. Now, that's a turn of phrase I've never heard. I got to compliment you on that. That was rather creative. At any rate, it's going to be good to see what happens in Game 4. The guys have really put themselves in the driver's seat. So let's go, Rangers.
All right, Doug. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the keen ear and the compliment. But that is nothing that I should be complimented for. I just hope that when you hear it, you remember the man that I remember when I say it, because that is an homage to the late, great Don Cameron. Look, everybody's got their thing. Well, a lot of people have their thing. And I don't even think I'm allowed to say the phrase that Joe Bowen is so well known for, because he's put some kind of copyright on it. I have to give him $25 or something. And then we had the Savardian spinorama from back in the day. Look, he shoots, he scores is always going to be a thing. You can't change that. Nobody could really copyright that. But Don Cameron had so many. In fact, I started, and if you are on social media and you go on to X and still search the hashtag Don Cameronisms, some might come up. But Don had so many ways of painting the picture. But one of his signatures was that very line, high, wide, and not so handsome. I didn't know what it meant when I heard Don say it. I don't know what it means today, but I like to throw it into my broadcasts every once in a while just to let Don know that I'm still thinking of him and I loved every minute of our time together. So when I say it, just so it's not a direct copy, I usually go with high, wide, and not at all handsome, because Don would say high, wide, and not so handsome. But that was a Don Cameronism. I have nothing to do with it. I have stolen it, in fact, without permission. But I think it's a fitting tribute to the guy who will only and forever be the voice of the Kitchener Rangers. I'm just the guy that happened to be in the booth next. And I miss him terribly. I'm so excited to be on this run with this hockey team, something that he got to experience all 4 times previously with the club. But anyway, Don's never far from my mind when I'm on a broadcast, when I'm in the booth. And when you hear high, wide, and not so handsome, it's because Don used to say it. And I like to say it every once in a while, too. Kyle is next on Rant or Rave this afternoon. Good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon. I got a rant and a rave. So I'm going to start with the jackwagon tree on the rant. My sister and dad went to the game on Friday just across to see the team that shall not be named. And not saying everybody is like this, I'm sure, and it happens in all sports, it happens with all teams. I'm not going to, say that it's just one specific team, but there's some jackwagons that were shouting some derogatory things to them, just walking to the arena, not saying, not the fun way either, just being a jerk about it and saying, USA, USA, and welcome to the United States, and, we own you guys and all that stuff, but just add some, think of some words that will go with that, and not very fun. So don't be a jackwagon. Sports is supposed to be fun. It doesn't matter what for. As you know, Mike and I, we cheer for 2 opposite teams, and we have fun with it. And that leads on to my rave, is Mike's force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. I appreciate everybody trying to bail me out last week when I was in the penalty box, but I just want to say, don't bail me out because it's a good cause. Do it for Mike. Still, if you want, I appreciate, Mike, if you tell us where we could donate money for cystic fibrosis, because even though I'm out of the penalty box, I'd still like to do it. I'd still like to give some money for it. And I can't wait for 50-50 tickets to come out and buy those as well. So I just want to say on those guys that Billy, and I think there's a bunch of people that are offered, I really appreciate it. But please still donate for a good cause for Mike's cystic fibrosis. Thanks, buddy. Have a good time. And go Rangers, go! Woo! Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Kyle. Nice to hear from you today, as always. You know what I will do, because that's an excellent reminder with those of you who offered $50 per week of Kyle's sentence to bail him out. So a $250 pledge was made by Bill last week, even though we let Kyle out of the penalty box early because, was it Phil? I think it was Phil who called, and he put me right in my place and had a very logical argument that I could not poke holes into as to how it was my fault that Kyle was in the penalty box. Kyle may have broken the rules, but I didn't catch them in time, etc. Anyway, Phil, I think it was, made such a convincing argument that I'm like, you know what? You're right. It was my fault. Kyle's out. But for those of you who would still be inclined to support our Farwell for Hire fundraising in support of cystic fibrosis research, I will post in the next few minutes the link directly to our fund page on our Facebook page. So just go to facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show or look up The Mike Farwell Show on Facebook. And you know what? Yeah, that's right. Look up The Mike Farwell Show on Facebook and you'll see the link right there that you can make a donation of any amount. If you want to do $5 a week for Kyle's sentence, so $25, great. If you want to do 50 like Bill for $250, even better. We're raising money to improve the lives of children who are still living with cystic fibrosis to this day. We've been doing great things with Farwell for Hire over the past decade plus, $1.6 million. Lives have been improved. We just want to get to that cure. So the link to donate will be on our Facebook page in just a moment. Go to the Mike Farwell Show on Facebook. You can donate right there. There will be a 50-50 raffle. I think I'm allowed to tell you that at this point. It's going to launch on June the 1st. June the 1st, we're going to launch a 50-50 raffle. Remember, last year we gave away more than $120,000. So you'll be hearing lots more about that. Just stay tuned right here to your favorite radio station. June the 1st, another Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle in support of cystic fibrosis research. And hey, if you want to help us get the campaign off to a good start, just send me an email, mike@570news.com. I will send you the link to join us at our launch party on Thursday, June the 4th. We're going to do it out at Block 3 in St. Jacobs, which is just up Highway 85. We're going to have food. We're going to have music. There will be Face for Radio IPA from Block 3 just being released that week. So some beer to enjoy, and your ticket gets you food, your ticket gets you the music, and it's just $25 to join us as we launch into another Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign in about 3 weeks' time. My gosh, is it 3 weeks away? I best get ready. Anyway, send me an email if you'd like to join us at the launch party. I'll send you the link to buy tickets. The email address is mike@570news.com. And the link to make a donation directly to our fund will be on our Facebook page in just a moment. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. On Mondays, your Talkback Hour is a chance to rant and or rave. Of course, you rant because you're upset about something. You rave because you're happy about it. Either way, give us a call, 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. Let's get back to the phones. Phil is with us this afternoon, Farwell's Force, member number 81. Good afternoon, Philip.
Good afternoon, Maestro. I have a rave. It's kind of a carryover from last night, we're considering where I was. So I want to compliment the City of Kitchener Cemetery Department. I'm out here at Mount Hope Cemetery doing some maintenance. And considering the winter we had with all the downed trees and everything, things look really, really good. So it's my Mike morning. I have Mike Farwell in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I listen to another Mike Stubbs.
Oh, Stubbsy, my buddy from London. Good guy right there. Good guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's a Mike day.
I like it. Good for you.
Okay.
Thanks, Phil. You have
All right.
excellent choice. Okay, bye-bye. Excellent choice in radio hosts. Just find the people named Mike. And if you can't find another one named Mike, just stay right here because I keep coming back. I'm like a bad rash. Sometimes I'm here 9 till 1, and then I come back at 5:30 in the afternoon like I did yesterday for a hockey game. You can get, it is possible to get too much Mike on this radio station. Or is there such a thing as too much Mike? I'll let you think about that one as we go back to the phones. Grant is with us on Talkback. Good afternoon, Grant.
Yeah, good afternoon. Did you and your hockey counterpart get together earlier today on the radio and discuss the game? And if so...
We did not.
Oh, okay. I was hoping.
What do you want to hear?
Just your feedback about the game. Like you did one other series you did with him, and I thought maybe you could do this too. Have the commentators that were doing the Rogers game and Sean Farwell input into that mix.
Well, he's not doing the games.
Oh, yeah, I know, but
yeah,
I thought it was.
I got good news for you, Grant. I got good news for you.
Yeah,
there has been a moose sighting. In fact, the moose has been sighted right here in my very remote studio in Barrie. So you're going to get his perspective. I think you're going to hear from him right after the 12:30 update today.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You don't get a perspective like that everywhere. It's a one of a kind, and it's coming up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just thought it would be kind of interesting, even though I don't know what, I think it was the last series where you had one day there where you and your hockey counterpart.
Yes, that's when I don't think Josh likes having me as a roommate because he didn't stay with me in Barrie. Maybe I should shower more often, or maybe I should stop snoring. I'm not sure which it is, but I haven't seen hide nor hair of that guy since the end of the game last night. Yeah, you see what happens, Grant? It's been a long season.
Yeah, but you know, it's so much fun. It's hard to believe that, but the Memorial Cup's just right around the corner. I wish we could replay all those games, you know, because it's been And like you said, we're so accustomed of them winning every single game. Yeah, so it's maybe the Leafs should learn their lesson, and maybe they should write down notes of how we should play. And yeah, we have some multiple small guys on our team, and they don't give a ding of how big the opposing
The other
player
guys
is.
are. I know. Okay, Grant,
Yeah.
I got to get to another call quickly
Yeah,
before the
cool.
news, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, thanks, Grant. Good to hear from you
Yeah.
today. I want to squeeze in John just before the 12:30 update. Let's go there. John, you're on Rant or Rave.
Hi, Mike. It's Hessler, Johnny.
Johnny, good day.
Enjoyed the call of the game last night. It was really one of the best hockey games I think you could ever see, and you'd have done that for free. It was so exciting. And also, last week, your take on the whole Conestoga College thing, I thought it was brave on your part and vulnerable and great reporting, and we need more of that.
Appreciate you, Johnny. Thanks very much for the call. On the note of doing the game for free, would I? Hell to the yes, I would. But there's a kind of funny story that goes along with that, and I will share it with you right after this update from the 570 News Center when I throw the reins on the Moose and bring them onto the show with us. So stay with us. Rant or Rave continues, and the one and only Moose joins me next, live from the remote studios in Barrie here on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, just a wee bit of a backstory for you. At the end of the Rangers season, at the annual awards banquet, where the players get the awards for various things from the team, and I usually MC that, which I did again this year. I joked with them. I use this same joke every year because that's the kind of guy that I am. No original material. But for whatever reason, this year it really seems to have landed. And I reminded the players that as we were going into the playoffs, I get paid by the game. And that's the truth. I get paid extra for my job. Not a ton, but I get paid extra, and I get paid per game I broadcast. So I said to them, my beloved has her eye on some improvements around the home. The more you guys play, the longer you go, the more money I can make and the happier my beloved's going to be. Well, wouldn't you know, last night in Barrie, as I was heading downstairs after the game, Matt Andonovsky's mom stopped me and she said, "Oh, your beloved must be very happy with all the renovations she's going to be able to do because we're still playing games." And then I got on the bus and the captain, Cameron Reed, came on board and said, "Hey, you told us you got paid by the game. Do you get paid by the period? Because we did 5 periods tonight." And I said, "Reader, I wish I got paid by the period. I'll try to negotiate that for next year." But those were a couple of the things that happened after that big overtime win in Barrie last night. And the man who now joins me in the remote studios here in Barrie, the one and only Moose, Mike Reeves, our bus driver, he was beside himself at the end of that game last night. Moosey, how did you possibly survive?
The last 2 nights, Friday, when was the last?
Yeah, Friday.
Was it Friday? I've lost track. The Friday night, the home game, that was horrible, as you know, being up there with you.
Why was it horrible? I loved it.
Oh, no, but I mean, I can't stand that stuff. And even last night was worse, standing down in the Zamboni door there. Those guys in Barrie, wonderful people, wonderful people. But they were laughing it up. They want their team to win, but they were happy for us. And so, yeah, no, that was a tough go. So hopefully tomorrow night we're going to win 5-0. And be the end of it.
I can't help but notice you've got a really nice hat on, Moosey. Western Conference Champions 2026, Wayne Gretzky Trophy, Kitchener Rangers. How much you pay for that hat?
Well, you have to ask Danny Liebel.
Oh, really? Is that so? What are you telling me?
Yeah.
You didn't pay anything?
No, I didn't pay anything.
Oh,
for that.
okay.
No,
Yeah.
Danny says,
it's good to be Moose.
Danny says, "Yeah, here, have this one." So hopefully, and as the boys said, hopefully we'll get another one, maybe tomorrow night.
Maybe.
So, another one. Let's stop here right now.
Okay.
There's something on my mind.
I love it. That's why I bring you on the show.
Love it. And that goes back to let's start right here in this hotel where
Are you sure you want to do this?
Why?
I didn't post your video last night for that reason.
Oh, Okay, doesn't matter.
Okay,
We'll
wanna
do it
talk
that way.
about- okay.
We'll talk about the hotel first
Oh
of all.
my gosh, here we go.
What a beautiful place they brought us to, the Conestoga Inn.
I'm not there. I'm somewhere else.
Okay. Oh,
I'm in
okay.
Simcoe
Okay,
somewhere.
there we are. Okay, doesn't matter. Anyway, but at the rink, the Ranger support last night. Are you on board with this?
I'm on board with whatever you.
There were blue jerseys and white jerseys in that crowd last night. The people from Kitchener came up, the support, the team. Oh my God. The fan bus came up, was 40 plus on that. Incredible evening. So hopefully it'll be the same showing tomorrow night. And it'd be nice to win tomorrow night. It'd be nice to win on Thursday night in front of the home crowd. But let's win tomorrow night.
I know that's the thing. You don't want to you kind of have this in you, like the Western Conference Championship happened, where you get to do it on home ice, but when you've got them up against the ropes, you might as well just go.
You got to win. You have to win. Then they'll have their parade or whatever they're going to do. I guess City Hall.
Listen,
whatever.
Mayor Verbanovic, you better start planning something here, because at least plan it just in case.
Plan something, and then hopefully then they're going to get. I think they get a week off, and then they're going to go out west, and they're going to be champs out west, and it's going to be wonderful.
My goodness.
Oh my goodness.
You can talk about how much you like this place. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's just fine.
No, the people have been very. You've seen too. They're very friendly. You look out the window. You got golf courses here. You got a rink on the property. They don't have to go anywhere. They practice here. It's beautiful.
I think what you're saying is the reason you like it so much is because everything's right here and you don't have to do anything.
Well, it goes back to what you're just saying, getting paid by the thing. And I'm getting paid today. And what am I doing? Nothing.
We should.
Oh, no, we're going for a drive in a while. We're going for lunch in a while. But other than that, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you have to take them for practice, you don't have to take them anywhere. They just have to walk.
They walk across the parking lot.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go for a drive in a little while for lunch into Alliston. And then dinner tonight, and then we'll pack it up. And
we will not be packing it up after dinner. We got back last night,
11 o'clock,
and you were so upset.
Oh,
so was I. The bar here at the hotel was closed, so we couldn't get a post-game drink. But you found a way to do it.
Well, we came up, and there's this dance competition going on. Little kids, teenager kids, lots of Kitchener people. Surprisingly, a lot of them. And so we came back last night, and there was a whole pile of parents in the lobby. They had drinks and that going on. They didn't go home because they finished late. I went in, asked it, could I have a beer? And sure enough.
This guy, you think I've got a nose for beer. He just walked right up to the crowd.
They had the beer, and they were very friendly. There was a gentleman, I can't remember his name. He's one of the guys at the Keg in Waterloo, one of the owners or managers or what have you. Very nice gentleman. He says the players have been there, the coaches have been there. So everyone's been, and they were very supportive when the kids came off the bus. They were cheering for them last night. So, good night, except for the bar not being open.
Yeah, well, we'll do that.
Well, we'll fix that tonight.
That's right. We will fix that.
We'll have lots of time tonight.
Have you or have you not yet taken advantage of that jacuzzi that's in your room here?
I haven't yet. Some of us have the jacuzzi tub in the room, and we still have tonight, so maybe later tonight we'll
because of all this work you're not doing.
I know.
Yeah,
it's a tough day today. So, yeah.
Okay, let's focus on this hockey team real quick, because I know that you live and die with these Kitchener Rangers. You pace, you walk in and out of the broadcast booth when we're in Kitchener because you got your own spot there. How are you feeling?
My plaque isn't there right now.
What plaque?
My name.
Oh,
my name thing is.
It's not there.
The last two games hasn't been. I meant to say that. I'll have to get Luca on that. But anyway.
All right. Yeah, Moosey has his own name plaque, name card in the booth, the David Scully broadcast booth in Kitchener. Yeah. So he knows where his seat is. And
there's only one seat.
you won't even let Bob McKenzie sit there.
No.
Does Bob McKenzie know who you are?
I've never met him. Actually,
do you know who he is?
Oh, I know who he is.
Well, and you won't let him sit in that seat?
Well, he hasn't. He's come down a couple of games at night, but he hasn't come into the room. He just walks by and talks to people. We've never met, believe it or not.
You are very invested in this team. You have been now. This is your ninth year driving this team around.
And
your
maybe
first year. Stop that.
Yeah, right.
Moosey retired earlier this year again for the third time, but now just on this trip, I'm getting him. I'm wearing him down. If you want Moosey to stay, send me an email to mike@570news.com. Or maybe you should just call the show right now and say, Moose, you can't go.
Oh, geez. No.
Moose's first year was 2018 when we went to the West Championship against Sault Ste. Marie.
17-18, right.
17-18, yeah. When we went to the West Championship against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, lost in Game 7, double overtime. here we are, one step away from glory.
One game to go, and who could believe it? Be champions. Well, not me, but the team and the kids. My God, what an organization! I don't need to tell you or these people. My God, right from the top, Joe Birch, Mike M, Mike Z, all the coaches that have been here since I've been here. There's been a few of them, assistant coaches, all the players. God, it's been good to see them all lately.
All the alumni coming back.
Oh my God, bring all those guys back. All the support staff we've had, Nick, and then Corey before that, and of course, the greatest ever, Danny Liebold. My God, what a human being he is. Everyone. It's just, I hope for them that, this comes, maybe tomorrow night.
You and
Hopefully.
me both. And
Hopefully.
Don't try to undersell yourself about being a part of this team. I heard those boys, every one of them gets on that bus last night, and there's a comment to you. It's either Mikey or Moose. Yeah, there's fist bumps. There's a lot of love for you.
Yeah,
buddy.
well, in the end, it comes down to we drive the bus. That's all. I don't go out there and do what they got to do. And so,
what'd you think when Aitchison scored that goal last night to tie it? With
oh my God, my head went down. I says, honest to God, it was the exact same as the other night. Same spot, almost the same time, close to it. Oh my God, but can he shoot? What a player! What a player he is. Oh my God. He'll be, I think he'll be playing in the Islanders, right? Islanders. I think he plays.
See, the Islanders, I thought he was the Kings.
I think he's
You probably got it right.
I think he's the
Islanders.
Islanders. But anyway, I think, so he'll be playing there. He's a great player.
Sam O'Reilly probably playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep. So what a player. What a professional.
All right, Moose.
What a professional.
You're going to take us to, you got the boys are going to take to lunch. I'm skipping.
We're going to lunch. Yeah. We're going to Montana's in Alliston. And then we're going to, I think we just said,
Gust.
I'm
going to join you for dinner.
Gust for dinner.
Okay.
And we'll see how that goes.
Really tough day for you. Nice sunny day to drive.
The sun was, and now it's gone. Well, I heard it was snowing up in just up in Kenilworth today. So, about anybody up watching, follow up on that. Let me know. There was flurries there this morning, apparently. So,
all right, watch for Moose Tracks on our YouTube.
Yeah, we're going to get Moose Tracks going. I think what we're going to do with all you fans who like Moose Tracks, we're going to get that going better. If not this year, maybe a bit over the summer, and then next year.
That's right. Next year. You heard it.
And then next year, we're going to really get Moose Tracks going. I think we're going to get, we'll get giveaways maybe, and we're going to get T-shirts made up. And if people want, we'll get more into Moose Tracks, but we'll be more. And I go rink to rink, and people like it. So I don't know.
Follow it on YouTube at the OHL podcast. Moose Tracks has his own video page.
So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Go Rangers, and let's win championships tomorrow night.
We'll be back with more Rant or Rave on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I will not tell a lie. We love having Mike Reeves, a.k.a. the Moose, with us as part of this team. He takes a lot of abuse in terms of there is a lot of teasing in good-natured ways, both ways. He receives, he gives it back, and it's just a lot of fun. It's one of the highlights of being around this group because Moosey is such a character. He's known in every rink we go into. And love getting him on the air to hear a little bit of that personality here on the show. I hope you enjoy him as much as we do. And I've said this lots, as much as we will tease him and he will tease back. This guy, honestly, is a whale of a driver. Great Canadian, has got themselves a good one. This man can handle that big bus. We have been through all kinds of nasty, wasty weather together and more. And he deserves that jacuzzi that somehow, did they do this on purpose, or did he actually get UC Ahokas's room here at the hotel? I have no idea, but he deserves it anyway for the way he keeps us safe on all of those trips that we have done over these past 9 years. And one more step for the Kitchener Rangers, and it will be off to Kelowna. We will not be taking the bus that far. I can assure you of that. Big game tomorrow night. You'll hear all of it, starting with pregame coverage at 6:30 for that big game 4 between your Kitchener Rangers and the Barrie Colts. Let's continue our ranting and or raving here on the show. Dave from Cambridge is with us. Farwell's Force, member number 47. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mike. And I have a rant and a rave on the very same subject, and that's the network TV coverage. But before you jump on me for not listening to the radio broadcast, I do listen to the radio broadcast. I just can't stay awake for the whole broadcast. So what I do is I always record it, pre-record it. So I can watch whatever happens. I can replay, even if I've heard the 3 periods and it's a complete game, I was able to stay up. I like to watch the TV coverage back the next morning. So that's my play. So the rave is on the commentators and Sophie between the benches. And you know who Sophie is. She's from London. But she really does a terrific job. So that's my rave. My rant is they don't extend the coverage for me to pre-record it. So I said, okay, this time I'm going to record the following show following the game. And that ended up not being enough because, as you know, they went into double overtime. So I missed it this morning when I did the replay. So that's my rave and my rant. And go Rangers, go. I'm very happy with the Rangers. I'm happy with your call. Your calls were terrific as always. Have a great afternoon, Mike.
Thanks, Dave. It's nice to hear from you today. And I'm sorry. I do jump pretty quick in defense of our coverage, don't I? Listen, I'm not a turnip. I get it. I mean, since the dawn of television, it is the preferred way to see with your own eyes what's happening out there on the ice. And then you can determine for yourself what it's like and why it's important and what you think of it, etc. I am just sitting here as a guy on the AM dial, and I joked not too long ago, I can't go much further down. I was as high as 640 on this dial at one point. Now I'm down at 570. My next step is going to be right off the dial and right into a retirement home. And I'm just not quite ready to do that yet. So we do work very hard on our coverage here on 570 News Radio. And I want to reinforce that with you. We've got some great partners on the show, not the least of which is Hefner Lexus Toyota, our title sponsor, but so many others in there. Moose Winooski's name came up earlier. I could list bunches of them off, but they support our product and we want to give them the best value for their support. So the number one thing I would always ask of you, and it's really easy to do, to sync up the audio that you're hearing on the station with the pictures that you're seeing on TV. You get the best of both worlds, right? And then you're supporting our product, which I still will say, content-wise, cannot be matched anywhere in this league. Josh Piercy and I work really hard to bring you the very best stuff. And your note on Sophie is absolutely spot on. Great kid who does great work. And I'm so glad to see her getting this opportunity with the big network for the OHL Championship Series. But by all means, keep the pictures on the TV, sync up the audio from this radio station, support our partners who keep us on the air. And I promise you, we are working our tails off for you. And that's why I get a little defensive of it. But hey, I'll try to be less jumpy and you consume the game however it is you prefer to consume it. That's absolutely up to you. Robbie is next on Rant or Rave this afternoon. Robbie, I trust you behaved yourself in Barrie last night.
Oh, you heard I was in Barrie last night, eh?
How could I miss you? You strike an imposing figure.
It's so much fun, honestly, mate. I mean, apart from the outcome, I mean, it was. I got to shout out to the Barrie fans. To be honest, we were treated very well. There was equal amount of chirping backwards and forwards. I was sat behind the guys that were all dressed in ref shirts, so I'm sure that the crowd heard the chant we got going for Jacob's mom, bless her. So she got a bunch of flowers, and Jacob got a bunch of grief off everybody, including his buddies and the rest of the fans that were around him. So yeah, it was a good night all round, and I made it on the telly. I got on
well,
the
there
TV.
you go. Good
so
job.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and shout out to all of the Rangers fans that kept coming up to me and saying, "Hey, you the dude on the radio?" So yeah, it's kind of embarrassing and flattering at the same time. So go Rangers, go! Hopefully, I got to try and find a watch party for tomorrow night because I won't be going up. It was a last minute thing yesterday. Somebody very kindly had a spare ticket, but. Yeah, amazing game. Fans came, the players came over and gave us an applause as well. So great turnout by the Rangers fans, great turnout by the team, and go Rangers. We got it tomorrow, boys.
Thanks, Robbie. Good to hear from you today. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more before we're done. Jim, you are going to get the last word on rant or rave. I got 60 seconds. Good afternoon, Jim.
Hey, Mike, I got to have a rave here. I've been calling in for a little while now. I hope everyone's getting their tickets out to Kelowna this year for the Memorial Cup. You know, you could get this one in this year and slide over to Guelph next year, 2 years in a row attending a Memorial Cup. Anyone that hasn't been, it's a full event. You know, the hockey games at the end of the day are kind of just a cherry on top. The CHL is going to put on a great show in Kelowna. You know, really rooting for Everett and then Moncton with McDougall on the bench there and their ownership. So it's a great product. The CHL can use more support now than ever. Show these kids that it is the best junior hockey and development league out there for them. So if you haven't booked yet now, Waterloo Airport, Calgary to Kelowna, I suggest everyone gets it done. So take care, Mike.
Great stuff, Jim. Right under the wire, too, time-wise. Appreciate you. And listen, if the Rangers do make it, we would certainly love to see some familiar faces when we're out there. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9. I invite you to join the conversation again then. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.